Call the roll, please.
Mayor Davey?
Here.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Here.
Councilmember Laredo?
Here.
Vice Mayor London? Here. Councilmember McCormick?
Here.
Councilmember Moss?
Here.
Councilmember Segurola?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
First item, Mr. Mayor, is an invocation by Pastor Dennis Eastling with the Key Biscayne Community Church.
Is he here?
Yes.
Oh, there he is. Denny? Can you speak?
Hello? Yes.
Denny, yeah, you're live.
No, I'm just here as to watch.
Oh, okay. Sorry, wrong person. Denny, are you here? I see him and he's not muted. So
Where do you see?
He's on page 2. All right.
In his absence, I move that Ed London gives the invocation.
Oh, that's not going to get a second. No, you. That's pretty much the way the night's going, isn't it? Okay, so in the absence of that,
he's you see him here. He's here.
Yeah, he's here. He's definitely here.
Maybe he's muted.
No, he's not muted. That's my point.
Excuse me, he says he can't unmute himself.
No, I just unmuted him.
Asked unmuted, says there.
That's for Eastling?
Okay. Danny?
He's muted.
Okay. No,
it says he's muted. Okay. It says he's muted, Mike.
Yeah, but he's not. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at him right now. It says
okay.
I'm muted. I mean, I'm not. Oh, now he's muted.
I just sent a request for him to unmute.
Okay. Danny?
Pete, did you send it to everyone? Because I got it.
Just to the pastor.
It's hard for me because I...
By the way, this is one of the reasons why I'm in favor of going back to live meetings.
Yes.
So.
Just limit the number of people that can come. That's all.
Right. Well, but we have to have that conversation. That's the point.
And I started with Peter. I got here first, and I started talking to Peter about that.
No, we can do it.
Because it's
correct. All right.
We have enough space up here divided among us? Yeah, I think so. 1, 2, 3.
We need 2 more people, and then we'd probably have, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
I think you're going to want to have a comprehensive plan.
Oh, no, 100%. I agree with you. And we probably won't be able to have it approved tonight, but at least we'll get, maybe for the next meeting, we'll have everything ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, you need to we'll talk about it, but you need to discuss physical changes potentially, to the chambers. You'll need a sergeant at arms to maybe assist depending on how many people you want in and out. So there's a good amount of, discussion.
I agree with you. Excuse me.
Are you aware of precedent, Chad, in any of the cities?
There are cities, yes, that are doing it. They have a variety of models. There's also the county commission model, which is that they allow people to be downstairs while the commission is upstairs, and you speak into a mic. There's a couple different models that the council could entertain.
The counties is quite awkward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Denny's going to be able to get in. I'm sorry about this, but we're going to have to move on. We've got a lot to go on. All right. Why don't we, well, I think, let's continue.
With that discussion on the.
Well, I think
I'll put it to a vote that we support your ruling that for this meeting, unfortunately, because we all like Tony and it's important to be very transparent, but I think the commanding principle to me is the rules are established. And, you know, and so if I'd rather you don't get the blunt of the, of being the bad guy, I make it a motion if that's appropriate. And then we can discuss moving
well,
to
I
the
think,
next.
yeah, that's a discussion item that we're going to have to get through. I see, you know, Tony's, he's raised his hand. A couple other people have raised their hands for public comments, which will come up after brief comments by council. So why don't we do this? Let's have brief comments by council.
Well, I made a motion.
Okay.
I think that, you know, you should, you know, remember we do allow a reasonable accommodation for people to be heard on things. So I would suggest that you do the brief comments by council and then hold public comments and then have Councilmember Laredo's motion at that time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's the appropriate way to go. So brief comments by council. Anything?
Yep. I got some.
Oh, Councilmember McCormick and then Councilmember Moss.
Okay, Brett can go first.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilmember
Thank you.
Lawton.
All right, yeah, I just, you know, mine's gonna be a little bit longer, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. But I just wanted to bring up what happened last Tuesday. I think it's good that we talk about it and we do it sooner than later. You know, there were some accusations I think that were made, and it put what I felt my character in question and maybe a few other council members. And I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, I felt that it's unacceptable for any council member, I think, to make any type of false accusations towards each other. I think we got to be very careful in doing that. And what I did is I called a meeting with Councilmember Laredo, and I thought it was a very good meeting. We talked, one of the real reasons why I wanted to sit with him was I wanted to clarify to him that this was an idea that I brought up and there was no conspiracy behind this. And we had a long discussion about respect, and I think it went very well. We talked about divisiveness. I just wanted to clarify that, you know, I do agree with the divisiveness of changing this process, and I see the divisiveness on council, between council members. And I think that's important. And I want to thank Councilmember Laredo for taking the time to meet with me and to talk. And I think it was a great step in the right direction. And I'm very happy that we did that. I also wanted to bring up to all the council members that were together about why I brought up this idea on Tuesday's meeting. And, you know, I took the time to read all the documents, go through everything that was given to us by, you know, by our consultants, the background checks, meet with all the different candidates, just like every other council member did, which is basically my duty as a council member. And one thing that changed is that we lost one of the final candidates and we went down to 4. And I'm a true believer in exhausting all the options that we can possibly look into. And one of the ideas that came up was that since our interim manager, Chief Press, was doing such a good job and that we like what he has been doing and we've seen things been moving, I thought he could be a possibility as adding one more person into our 5 candidates. And, you know, I listened to each one of you guys speak and I heard, and it was clear that there was at least 3 council members that felt very strongly that this was not the correct process, that this deviated from our process. And I can respect that and I can understand that. And upon reflection, for me, I understand that this would be a deviation from the process. And I made a decision that I would not move forward with that consideration of bringing our interim in as a candidate. And I want to make clear that to Chief Press that this has nothing to do with you personally. I think you would have made an excellent manager for Key Biscayne, and you are doing and you have done a wonderful job as interim manager. You have been a loyal and dedicated employee and our police chief for 17 years. And I know you personally, and you're an exceptional and extraordinary human being. And you have kept us safe in this community year after year, and you have been, and which Key Biscayne has been one of the safest places to live in Florida. I have nothing but the highest level of respect for you, and I applaud you. And I applaud you because you're always there for us when we need you and for the village. And last Tuesday, when you were asked if we needed you, you said yes. And I think that as a Rotarian, you always put service before self. And I really hope that my fellow council members would agree with me that you are doing a wonderful job. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the job that you do for us every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McCormick, and then Vice Mayor, and then Councilmember Laredo.
So Brett said many of the things that I was planning on saying at the last meeting. Obviously, there were things said that were really potentially damaging to the reputation of several of us. I expressed in the last meeting how I felt about the ones that were said about me, but tonight I did feel compelled to acknowledge the position that Chief Press was put in. He served the village so far for 17 years, as far as I can see, since I've lived here, each day coming to give it his all. And when we as a council asked him to serve as interim, he accepted. He hadn't put in to be the manager, but he accepted when we asked him to be the interim. And as we saw at the last meeting, there were several of us who think he's really done a great job. He has not been a mere placeholder. He's worked very hard and been very productive. And additionally, I think he's helped this council to have some of its most productive meetings in probably over 2 years. And I thought it was very unfortunate that as a reward for that service, without asking for the position of manager, his integrity was questioned and he was put in a very difficult spot. So my brief comments, what I would like to do at this time is to thank him for all he's done and to let him know that this council member hopes that he is willing to continue to serve the village as a police chief and continue to give it his all every day. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor London.
Are you on mute here? Am I muted?
No, you're up.
I'm live. I reacted or overreacted at the last meeting. Again, when out of the blue this came up, when Brett brought it up, and then the three council members all chimed in. Obviously, I was just flabbergasted, having gone through the 52 candidates, having met these people, having spent a myriad amount of time. If Chuck was one of the candidates from the beginning, obviously, I probably would have favored him. But to bring it to the last minute, just all kinds of crazy things went through my head. So whatever I said, if I didn't say it verbally, people said my motions, my eyes, my face, my contortions, whatever, expressed it all. So I definitely apologize to anybody I might have insulted or made feel bad. Obviously, Chuck knows how I feel about him. I think he's very competent. I think he's a great police chief. And I don't mean any disrespect to him or anybody else here. So again, if I've insulted anybody, if I made anybody feel bad or anything other than doing the right thing, I do apologize. Thank you. Oh, last thing. I attended the meeting between Laredo and Ma, and it was a pleasure to see these two guys talk, civil discourse, understanding each other. Actually, it was really restored my faith in everything. Thank you.
It's good. Councilmember Laredo, and then Councilmember Kaplan.
I think the meeting. I'm on now. Yeah, the one-on-one meeting that we had was probably following the low point of my 2-year service, the high point of my of my service here in the last close to 2 years. Councilman Moss's request for a meeting, which I immediately accepted, showed enormous amount of grace and enormous amount of class on his behalf. And for the very first few minutes that we were together, in fact, the first 5 minutes, we were of one mind. And that's why it was an easy meeting, that no matter what happened, we were united. This was not about any individual, the integrity of anybody, notwithstanding the emotions of the day, but it was all about what is best for the village. And so departing from those first 3 minutes, the rest was rather easy. We wasted not 1 minute about who said what, who is right and who is wrong, just how can we move forward together in unity. The major decisions that we have are two major ones, and they're interlinked, which is one, the selection of the adequate management, the best that we have, because immediately upon that, we need to carry on the mandate of the people of Key Biscayne when they approved the bond issue to us carrying on with infrastructure projects. So it was truly a very, to me, emotional meeting. Showed that there's a lot more than unites us and divides us. And more importantly, I think it showed me that Mr. Moss is a true gentleman. And I apologize to him then, and I apologize to him now and any other body. So I am quite charged with optimism and good feelings moving forward as a result of that. And thank you for the initiative, Brett. That was really classy. Thank you.
Councilmember Kaplan.
This is very good, very constructive, very positive. It sometimes is the case that the vicissitudes of experience cause people to come together in the aftermath. And it seemed to me what was very clear throughout this process is that we were all focused on the important salient mission of trying to make the best possible choice that we could. I think my impression was borne out by what Brett said tonight. I surmised that Brett had come up with what he considered to be a constructive suggestion, acting or perhaps reacting on the withdrawal of one of the candidates who, as I saw it, had a background that was just different than the others. And I assume from what Brett said a moment ago that he saw it similarly, and conceivably others among us did as well. I had come to know decision last week, but as I said, I was open to the idea, open-minded about the proposal for the reasons that I stated. I think the chief press, at least from my sensibility, made it clear that he had not aspired to this, but was willing to answer the bell if the bell rung. And the question before us that Brett introduced was whether we wish to ring the bell. Point about divisiveness is always a concern. It seems to me that unfortunately in the community there's something almost atmospheric about fissures in our community. Where this comes from is a subject of a lot of scrutiny by me and I know by others. I hope that what we will always do is scrutinize the sources of division and do all that we can to narrow the fissures and reduce and, if possible, eliminate distrust and vilification, and never, by our own conduct, add to sources of division. That would be a really good outcome for this body. So I just am glad that Brett introduced this, and it's good to have a little reconciliation on the point, because last Tuesday was a tough meeting.
Agreed. Yeah, I do want to echo, I think Chuck's done an amazing job. It was interesting when Brett introduced the idea last Tuesday. I had been looking at Chuck and wishing that he had applied, but I think I fell in line with Councilmember Segarola, who said that if we're going to allow the chief to become an applicant for this job, we're going to have to reopen it, and we're going to have to reconsider a whole bunch of different people. But I would, what I like to hear about is Monday, that sunshine meeting. It's a shame that I would like that to be how we handle things when we have an issue. If we have an issue with one another, let's hope that we reach out and say, okay, why are you saying that? Rather than assuming something, let's try and work together to figure out where we go, because that's how we're going to get things done. That's how we're going to work against divisiveness in this community. And we're going to, we're the ones who we have to show. We can talk all we want, but we have to show. And so I appreciate what you guys did on Monday. I think that was great. And I think we all can learn from that, and we can move forward. But again, I want to thank Chuck for everything he's done, not as interim, but also as police chief. I think it's phenomenal. And regardless of the fact that he's a Yankees fan, I still love the guy. All right, let's move on.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching at home, on channel 77 on Comcast, on channel 99 on AT&T Uverse, or streaming us live via our website. If you wish to have any public comments for council, please dial the following phone number. The phone number is 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you currently logged into the meeting that wish to speak, either dial *9 on your telephones or raise your hand within the Zoom app. Mr. Mayor, we so far have 4 speakers. Our first speaker is Tony Winton. Mr. Winton?
Hello there. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that was a yes. All right, my name is Tony Winton. My address is 121 Crandon Boulevard. I am here as the representative of the Key Biscayne Independent, a news organization, and I'd like to be heard about attending this session.
Continue.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I attempted to attend this session as I have other hybrid sessions, and I was informed by you, sir, and by other members of council that I could not attend in person, and I want to first be heard on that. I'll try and be as brief as I can. The Sunshine Law and the Open Meetings Law are 2 pieces of legislation that are critical in Florida for members of not just the public, but the media as well, to observe and report on the goings-on of government. In particular, the Open Meetings Act is something that allows people to watch and hear and see what's going on. I think the discussion that was held just a few minutes ago actually drives home the point. You just heard a discussion about alleged violations of the Sunshine Law or Open Meeting Law regarding the selection of village manager. There was a sunshine meeting that was held in this very council chamber within the last 48 hours. And the public was allowed to attend that. But now a member of the news media has been removed from this meeting to watch and observe what the elected officials are doing. It's really critical to transparency and open government that the media be allowed to attend meetings, particularly if they can do so in a safe manner. I heard what Mr. Friedman said, the village attorney, basically saying that there was no difference between the media and the public. Respectfully, sir, I disagree. There's an entire body of law about how the media, has both obligations, responsibilities, and other ways it interacts with government in terms of covering the news. And I've done it over the course of my career for 30 years, being part of press pools, being allowed to restricted areas where the general public is not allowed. And that includes coverage of military operations and even, yes, the President of the United States. So that's really just not factually accurate. Here, again, the point is that if you're going to be establishing confidence in open meetings and the open meeting law, you should allow the members of the news media to attend these meetings in a safe manner. And I again request that you put this to a vote and to allow me to enter the council chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
All right, Mr. Mayor, our next speaker is telephone number ending in 501. Caller, please dial *6 on your telephone to unmute yourself. Caller, you were live.
Tony, who was it?
That was phone number 501. They just muted themselves. Caller, if you wish to speak, please dial *6.
Caller, you're unmuted.
This is why we need to go back. It's Louisa Conway. I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Okay. Please go ahead and state your name and address.
Louisa Conway, 151 Crandon Boulevard. Good evening. I wanted to echo a lot of what Councilmember Loretta just said to Brett as a member of the public that attended that meeting. Thank you very much, Brett, for clarifying. It was truly a class act on both your parts. And to what Tony Winton just stated, we would all really appreciate if you would all consider allowing the public in a safe manner to attend the meetings in public. The reason I just am calling in this evening was just to discuss about the position of village manager. And I wanted to ask if council would rethink possibly hiring Connie Hoffman to maybe help you broaden the pool of applicants that you already have before you. You had 5 finalists. Your best candidate, Mr. Bradford, has dropped out. Your other 2 candidates, Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Lynch, she didn't even think was worth considering. And so then you were left with Chris Rose and Mr. Williamson. So both with very interesting backgrounds. But one of the things that kind of caught my eye in listening to these discussions is I know some people are talking about having a reset, start the process over. I know how difficult this has been for all of you. And you did get over 54 applicants, but I think around 32 weren't even worth looking at. So you have at least 18 to maybe go back, have Connie look at it, because it looks like some of the potentially good candidates with strong municipal backgrounds might have been overlooked. And just looking at the way she analyzed the candidates, it might actually be worthwhile for you all to take some time to have her review that. Because right now you're down to 2 candidates. And I'm just kind of hoping that you'll rethink this, because this is the most important critical task that you as council have, to choose the village manager. And I think it's really important that whoever it is that you choose has the strongest skill sets to help us pursue these infrastructure projects that have been mandated recently by the public. I also just really hope that you think about the impact of what just happened with the village manager leaving, how we look as a community to the outside world, and what just happened last Tuesday. And I think it's important for us as a village, we are a role model community, that if we want to get the best and the brightest out there, it's important how we conduct ourselves and how we treat potential applicants for positions within the village. So I just wanted to call in. I understand that this is a very difficult choice that you've all had to make, but I hope that you will all think about just utilizing Ms. Hoffman and maybe rethinking some of the other candidates. And that if you really had to choose, if you look over the candidates, Mr. Rose has very strong budgetary background.
Ms. Conway, I gotta cut you. You've gone over your 3.
Oh, I'm sure I have. So I hope you think about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, our next caller is a Zoom caller with the initials AHF. Caller, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Alan H. Fine also known as AHF. And I...
Address, Alan, please.
Yes, 525 Allendale Road. I am calling to speak in favor of one of the candidates who I know personally, Steve Williamson. Over the past 3 years, I've been working on a project with the Adrian R. Center and the Town Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, which is, we're in the process of creating, not too many people know about it yet, but an amazing linear park going from Overtown to the museum park and the museums, the American Airlines Arena, and the Arts Center. We were assigned a representative 3 years ago from the city of Miami to work with us, and that was Steve Williamson. On our group of citizens that included Jessica Goldman from the Goldman Group, former Mayor Manny Diaz, Eric Woolworth, who is the president of business operations for the Miami Heat. And from the very beginning, we were working with Mr. Williamson, and we would comment to each other that where did this guy come from? He's the most competent person we've ever worked with from the city of Miami. Just great skills in terms of being able to collaborate with all kinds of different people, architects, lawyers, doctors, people from Overtown, people from the Wynwood area, and Steve was just great. And again, he was by far, I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of feedback coming from my phone. Steve was by far the best representative from the city of Miami we've ever worked with. And at the time I was dealing with him, I had no idea of his military background, the fact that, you know, aside from working with lots of people at the city of Miami, he was trained to work with warlords in Iraq and elsewhere in the world, tribal leaders there. So, you know, working with the people of Key Biscayne will be easy work for him. But he's just a terrific person, one of the best people I've ever dealt with in municipal government. And I just, I didn't know whether this was going to come up for a vote tonight or next week or whenever.
Alan, I'm going to have to cut you. You've gone over the 3.
I'm finishing my last sentence. Wherever Perfect. It comes up for a vote, I hope you will give strong consideration to an exceptional candidate, Steve Williamson.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, our next caller is a phone number ending in 527. Caller, please dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Marcela. I am 15 years Key Biscayne resident. I live in Ferngul Road.
Could you state your address for the record, please?
The council. 442 Ferngul Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dear members of the council, thank you so much for allowing me to be heard. I have some concerns to be shared. First of all, I want my Key Biscayne back. I recently moved from a condo to a house looking for more tranquility, but I found myself with insecure and a lot of lack of control. Insecure, why? Because I found people sleeping. First of all, I live in front of the park, of the village green. I found people sleeping in the park. I found vans parked in the park with people inside sleeping like a camping parking or spending the night there. Teenagers that are staying in after hours in the park or the street with bikes, loud music, flipping skate or golf carts with a lot of noise, drinking hard alcohol or smoking. I saw all of these things. So I'm not, I'm saying what I'm seeing. Of course, I called the police, but I am the person that have to call the police. Where are they? But the most situation out of control was last Saturday. There were some incidents. I saw golf carts racing and crashing to each other in the soccer field. That it cost, I think the soccer field cost like $5 million. Well, they were racing with golf carts there. Or even they were racing in the walking size. I saw a toilet broken in the public restroom that night, that Saturday night, the last one, with the water running down to Crandall Boulevard. And a golf cart finally crashed into my mailbox two times. And as they couldn't take the golf cart out, they left the car there and ran away. So I think these situations are extremely under control. I feel insecure where I'm living. This is not the Key Biscayne when I look for a peaceful place to live. This is not the one that I start living in 15 years ago, and I want that back. I don't know where is the police. I see the police officers every night in the entrance of Key Biscayne, but when you call, I called the police this Saturday, and they answer, "We will send an officer when available." That was the answer.
All right. Well,
I don't know. Thank you so much for your attention, and I would like everybody to discuss about what is going on with the security in the village.
Absolutely.
That we love that village.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, our final caller is phone number ending in 685. Caller, please dial *6 on your telephone to unmute yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Laura Ibarra, 482 Frontwood Road. I'm calling because I will also like to address the incident on Saturday night. I just witnessed, as I was coming back from the Key, the golf cart that was all broken, the roof. So I guess the kids flipped it over, and the other golf cart that crashed into the mailbox. I just think that it would be a good idea to have a police officer parked there in the park and, walk around, and also have another one driving around the Key to make sure, that kids that aren't under control, they can control it. I remember when they burned the Tiki Hut in the beach park, right away there was a police officer by the beach, and I think that was ideal because 2 days after I went to the beach, and there were some teenagers, a couple, like about 10 or 12 kids, all walking to the beach, and when they saw the police officer, they all ran out. So if they had plans of doing things, that scared them off. So I think that's ideal. I know that some of the police cars were broken and had leaks and oils, and I know that they have been working on it and been replacing them, and thank you for that, because we need more security here in the Key, especially at night times and during the weekends when kids, sorry to say it, but are going wild. And many people were complaining that Saturday night that they stole their golf carts. And I don't know if they reported or they were missing, but it's very concerning because, this is supposed to be a safe place to live in. And I know there are people that are coming out of the Key and they don't live here, but they must be getting information from people who actually live here to do all these things. That's just my, perspective and point of view. So I would really appreciate if you guys can help us on that. And you have my support if you guys need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Lottie.
Mr. Mayor, we have one more caller with the telephone number ending in 906. Caller, please dial *6 on your telephone to unmute this.
Yes, good evening, Michelle Esteves, 260 Crandon Boulevard. I was here to speak in the matter of the telecommunication item, but I see that has been rescheduled by staff or requested to be rescheduled by staff for the next council meeting on April 27. But I would like to take then this opportunity to thank our village staff. We are in a little over 1 year of our officially pandemic, and which has been extremely difficult for everyone on the island. I'm going to concentrate on our island. But I would like to thank the village personnel, our staff. Everyone has been handled this pandemic with such a great manners and saving a lot of time and energy for many of us. The building and zoning department adjusted well. Was not easy. It was difficult. I went through a lot of problems, but you know what? They were there. They were open. Miami-Dade County, they are still closed. It's everything by Zoom or everything closed doors. Recreation department, Todd, thank you. A special thanks to our police and fire. Even after what you are addressing now, I think that it has to do with parents, but that is another subject. I'm going to concentrate in thanking the council. Mr. Mayor, you have been there. You have been communicating 24/7. Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, to our island doctors and nurses and first responders. I would like to just make sure that everyone is recognized because it has been such a difficult year for every one of us, for the business in our community, Key Biscayne Chamber. I mean, from now on, let's hope for a brighter future, a better island. Let's respect each other more. Let's think of our neighbors and our citizens. Keep wearing the mask doesn't mean because you got vaccine that you are immune. So let's keep our mask on. And thank you, thank you, thank you. In my closing remarks, I have to apologize to Council Member Lauredo, but I must congratulate you. It's about time. I'm sending you good wishes for tomorrow. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I have no one else signed up to speak.
Okay. Let's move on to the next item.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the agenda. Approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
Okay,
Mayor, I think you did say that Laredo's motion could be heard at this time if you wanted
fair
to
enough.
heard.
You move your motion?
Yeah, if the lawyer feels necessary, but I think in the spirit of...
Can you turn your volume on, Councilmember Laredo?
Here,
I'm sorry.
And can you repeat the motion?
Yeah, let me just share this with you. I'm a stickler for form, and I have a lot of disagreements with you, but I don't want you to be hanging out on denying this access by Tony Winton. I like Tony Winton. I was on his show. We had a great time. It is the same concept that I articulated then with the village manager thing. There are certain rules. We want to maybe relax them now. Perhaps your presence will do that. But imagine you made some comments today that may be interpreted that we're keeping you out of the meeting. We're simply keeping you out physically. But everybody is participating. We heard you. What would happen to another news organization? We have others in the island and say, wait, I didn't go because I thought you had a rule. So it's not fair. Although I know and I love the persistence that you have as a very good newspaper man and media man and journalist, but it really is not fair to put the burden that we're excluding you because we're not, you or anybody else. And we may have the conversation now that perhaps we can do that henceforth. But, you know, don't blame us. So my motion was, since he said he wanted an emotion, if you want, I'll make it a motion. I was hoping that he, in the spirit of Mosa Laredo, would sort of take this message of one is, please understand that that's the way it is. It's not targeted at you and it's not targeted at anybody. It's trying to be fair to all. It's been terribly difficult for all of us to get this done. And clearly transparency and accessibility, we've been learning as we go along. So Tony, don't, you know, if you feel that we need to make a motion, I'll make it because we need to close this and move on. You think I should make a motion? Then I do. Ed, I'll make a motion with the comments that, unless Tony withdraws this. And motion to reaffirm the mayor's ruling that's subject to our council, not the mayor, our council set rules relative to attendance here, that we are bound by those rules as of today, period. And applies to everybody, including press. And we have open alternative, openness, accessibility, and we have been extremely transparent and spent a lot of money, by the way, in doing it. That is my motion.
Okay, so I'll second that motion.
All right, Councilmember Segarola, you're recognized.
Just for the record, I think we are overdue for allowing the public back into the chambers. I understand what our policy was during the height of the pandemic. However, our policy, I disagree with our attorney. I think our policy does not trump the law. I think, Mr. Winton, I do not see a distinction between press and individuals. He is here now. I would allow him into the chambers, which are empty. Also, I would encourage the administration to come up with new policies so that by our April 27th meeting, we could have as many people in here as possible safely. Right now, we are set up to have, I think we have 18 chairs socially distanced, which are empty. We could have at least that number of the public in here or more. I leave those details up to the administration who are more knowledgeable in that area than I. But I am for allowing Tony Winton or anyone else who decides to show up at this meeting, as long as we have social distancing into the meeting.
Councilmember London, Vice Mayor London, and then Councilmember McCormick.
This is our policy.
Your volume, sir.
All right. I'm sorry. I don't understand the purpose of the motion right now. This is the policy we have today. So if any motion we're going to have is to change the policy if we want to. Otherwise, this has been our policy at this point in time. So,
Mr. Mayor, I don't understand Ed London. I just looked at him and he said for me to make the motion. I looked at you, you said yes.
Yeah, but I thought you would make a motion to make a change. You just made a motion.
I apologize.
That is well, that's all. I'm sorry.
No,
I misunderstood.
Guys, Councilmember McCormick is up and then Councilmember Kaplan.
Yeah, I agree with Ignacio. I'd like, perhaps I'll make a motion, but I would like to see if there's consensus of council. I don't know that we need a motion to direct the manager to come up with a plan and ask Chad if we do need to have a vote to change our policy by the next meeting, providing for the fact that there's enough time for the manager to come up with an adequate plan.
Yeah, I think if the council gives us direction right now, we can come back and we will not notice it as a hybrid meeting. We just need to know the details. Is it going to be all 7 council members going to be in the chambers? I presume the administration may put up some plexiglass. I know there was at one point. I don't think there is now.
Yeah, there is. There's plexiglass. Well, yeah, there's plexiglass between the 5 of us. There's 5 of us here. I would think we could still stay with at least 2 members out. I don't see a problem with that. We could do 3, although next week maybe we need 5. Next meeting we need 5. But I would say, like, my question, I guess, to everybody is, how do we proceed on what else Councilmember Segarola is proposing?
Well, I think that it's important to stay, it was my turn to
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Stay hybrid, because we can't fit everyone who wants to come from the public in the meeting. So you still have to really give public access. And we could certainly borrow from, we can put pieces together from all different municipalities and do it the best. We can have access via Zoom. We're still on channel 77. We can have our microphone open, and if we have a sergeant at arms, even if our seat capacity is full, we can allow public comments to come in from outside where people can stand in line, the appropriate distance outside in the fresh air, masked, to come in one at a time, make their public comments if they feel they want to make them at the podium. But like Ignacio said, these are clearly details the administration can handle. I just want to make sure that if we're going to be making changes to our policy of how we define a hybrid meeting and public participation, if a motion needs to be made and a vote taken, let's do it tonight so that we can be up and running. I think there's clearly consensus of council that we're ready to welcome the public who wishes to attend physically, but leave access to those who don't.
Okay, Councilmember Kaplan.
First, I think that the gist of Luis's motion was to validate the decision that Mike had given tonight with the advice of council, so that it was not squarely on Mike's shoulders. And I agree with that, and I think we should do that. And I agree with the principle that there's a procedure in place, and it is inappropriate to simply deviate from it without any notice. At the same time, it seems to me that we're probably ready to adopt a methodology to welcome people back in person. But as Allison just observed, there's got to be a standard, and we have to adopt that standard. So I think that the manager could take the lead on recommending what we might do to have people in person, and we'll make that decision.
I think that's right. Councilmember Moss, did you want to say something? I didn't see your hand up.
No, I agree with Councilmember Kaplan.
Okay, and Councilmember Segarola, I know you wanted to say something again, one more time.
I think in order to be clear, we really need to split this into two separate motions. First would be a motion to direct the administration to prepare for open public meetings as best as possible safely for the next meeting, April 27th. That's number one. Number two is to deal with the issue that's before us, which is Tony Winton, I think, is still outside and wants to be in this meeting. I think there is clear consensus as to what to do for the next meeting. However, there should be a vote or something to decide what to do for this meeting.
So we have three motions that are being proposed. The first one is the council member's motion, which is before us, that you guys were all together, even though I'm the one who basically told Tony he had to leave. It was a decision of council. It was following council process with the recommendation of the attorney. So let's have that one voted on now. Oh, Councilmember Moss, you were going to say something?
I have a question. If Tony Winton is in the chamber, and I've been in the chamber before, and you can't hear anything if you don't have a microphone on. You can hear a pin drop. Is he going to have headphones and a computer like he would at home, just sitting in the same room? Or is he going to be sitting there just looking at you guys talking into microphones that he can't hear?
I don't know. We're still trying to work through all of this stuff. It's our first pandemic. We'll be better the next one.
Let's get through this motion.
Yeah.
Let's call the question.
Call the question on the motion. Councilmember Segarola, Councilmember Laredo's motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
The next motion would be to direct staff to, this was Councilmember Segarola's motion that I second, that we direct staff to come back with protocols and procedures for allowing a reasonable number of the public to come in and attend our meetings in person, as well as defining how people can make their public comments, whether we're going to allow for both telephone public comments and I think, but we'll get staff to give us the best recommendations. So let's, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. The final motion, which is also Councilmember Segarola's motion, and I will second it just to put it on the floor, is to allow a member of the public, a member of the press, to come back into the chambers at this time and to, as I understand it from Councilmember Segurola, to open up the chambers to anyone who wants to attend at this time.
It's basically the same thing as
Today.
Councilmember Laredo said.
Yeah.
It's so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay. All right.
Just
So,
if I might, an observation. At least one other person, resident in the community, wanted to come to this meeting.
that's my point.
And we, the attorney said no. So it's just not right to do this tonight.
Well,
Is somebody talking there? Because I can't hear and neither can the public.
Let's just move on. Move on.
He's back. He's back.
I'm just, all right. Okay. We want to move on, I guess. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then
sidebar conversations are tough for those of us not.
Right, I get that, and that's again why I'm looking forward to when we're all back together, one big happy council. But right now we've had that discussion item. I would like to have a discussion item put on the agenda for this evening to discuss what happened Saturday night. I'd like some clarification. I mean, it was a bit of it was. Correct. We're in additions, deletions, and I would like to add an item about.
I'm sorry, was the last motion withdrawn?
Yes, it was withdrawn.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so under mayor's, it would be number 6, discussion on Saturday night.
Discussion on vandalism, right?
Yes, Saturday night's vandalism. And yeah, I think the sense it's just symptomatic.
You unmute me or something? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. On additions, I would like to put in a discussion on a $5 million infusion of money coming from the federal government, arising out of all these rescue plans that, as I understand preliminarily, will be coming, half of it, at least $2.5 million by this June, and 2 or 3 years later, another $2.5 million. And it has, subject to finer reading of this mammoth bill, that seems to have enough flexibility that we can use.
Let's leave it on as a discussion. We'll
yeah,
have the
I'm
full,
sorry.
No, that's right. I know. Otherwise, we're going to have the discussion now, and then we'll have it again.
My apologies.
No, no worries.
And the other one is the deletion, or at least a discussion briefly, due entirely because a lack of proper communication through third parties. I had requested to meet with the mayor about discussing all the boards that we're trying to streamline, which we have on the 27th.
Right.
But there was one that was possibly going to come up on today, which is the 2040 Vision Committee. Unfortunately, because of miscommunication, we were not able to get together. I think it would be appropriate if it's okay with you, for which if we postpone this, because I think I have some discussion items that I could either have tonight or in a smaller group that I think are moving in the direction of general guidelines. And to let me just tell you first of all how I feel about the vision, so that we can be very clear. Although I oppose the grant, I am 100% in support of their work. And I never appointed anybody, I don't believe, because that whole thing at the beginning, and I'm not pushing necessarily anybody. I just want it's been relatively divisive a little bit, and I don't want to continue but there are some specific issues that I have with some of your nominees. I may be getting ahead depending on who you propose to nominate. So it's kind of a ask for discussion or deletion, or you want me to hold. I'd rather do it more quietly with you, but I'll do as you like.
I mean, I understand that you were trying to, and you offered that one time, and I.
No, but it was.
I understand later, that we had a mistake because I didn't understand.
It was an honest mistake.
So, because I was on vacation, so I'd really like to get these guys moving, and so let's have the discussion. Let's have the discussion.
We'll have a discussion.
I think I want to get them moving because otherwise we're waiting we've waited 3 weeks and
all right. Fair enough.
I would appreciate it. All right. So we have 2 items. Anybody else have additions?
I'll move to add the 2 items.
Okay. All those in favor? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mayor, the staff is recommending that 10B be deferred.
I move it.
Oh, hold on. Because my firm has represented Cape Florida, I have to recuse myself from even voting on that. So can we distinguish the 2?
Pass the gavel to London.
I don't even know where the gavel is. I think he took it last time I was here.
That's fine. You can separate the 2.
Let's vote on the 2, and then I will not vote on the deferral item.
Okay.
That's okay.
All those in favor of the agenda changes?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And now on the deferral of the item.
I move it.
Second. To be clear, it's to a date certain of, I think the agenda says the 27th of April.
Mm-hmm. So moved and seconded to move it to the 27th.
And who moved it?
I did.
Kaplan seconded.
No, Kaplan.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Help me. What happened here? Fucking.
You're not muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble.
Yeah, you are.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a special presentation by Markham LLP, accountants, reference Village of Key Biscayne Audit.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Village Council members. My name is Mo Reason. I'm with the firm of Markham LLP, and I'm here to present the comprehensive annual financial report, which was included as part of the agenda and also released to you on March 26th. If you have the document with you and you want to follow along, I'll make reference to some of the printed pages. If you turn with me to printed page 1, you'll find our independent auditor's report. First paragraph titled Report on Financial Statements makes reference to what we've audited, the accompanying financial statements of the government activities, the business type activities in each major fund of the Village of Key Biscayne for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020. The second paragraph titled Management's Responsibility makes reference to what management is responsible for. They're responsible for preparing this document in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, also known as US GAAP. The third paragraph, titled Auditor's Responsibility, makes reference to what we, Markham, as your external auditor, is responsible for. And we're responsible to produce an opinion on the financial statements, and we do so by following 2 sets of standards. The first set of standards is auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, known as US GAAP. And because we are in the state of Florida, we also follow government auditing standards. If you turn the page with me to page 2, you'll find the most important paragraph in our report titled Opinions. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects of respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities in each major fund of the village. This is an example of an unmodified opinion, and this is the only opinion you want to be associated with as a council member and that the village would like to receive. Again, an unmodified opinion. Following page 2, on page 3, we make reference to the government auditing standards and additional reports that we issue as part of this comprehensive annual financial report, which I will go into later in my presentation. If you turn page 3, that will lead you to the section titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. That starts on page 4 and ends in page 13. The comprehensive annual financial report is a lengthy document, and if I was to suggest you read any portion of it in its entirety, I suggest you read the management discussion and analysis. This is put together by the finance department at the village. And what it does is it provides you quantitative information, but also qualitative information. It compares 2020 activity versus 2019 and shows you a fluctuation on a monetary level, but it also provides you the underlying justification or explanation of what's causing the changes. So in essence, the MD&A, which starts on page 4 through page 13, summarizes all current year activity for the village and compares it to historical 2019. Following the MD&A, I'm going to go over some of the government auditing standards reports we issued, and that takes us to page 97, if you're following along. On page 97, you find our independent auditors report on internal controls or financial reporting in accordance with government auditing standards. On page 97, we define what a deficiency in internal control is, and we make a separation or a distinction between a material weakness and a significant deficiency. As mentioned in our report, we do have one item that is mentioned as material weakness 2019-001, which I was going to highlight because it is a material weakness that we're reporting to the village council. Before I go into the MW 2019, on page 98, you'll also find our compliance paragraph. Our compliance paragraph makes reference to the fact that although we are performing an external financial audit, we're also required to do compliance testing. And as a result of our compliance testing, we have no items or instances of non-compliance regarding laws, regulations, contracts, or grant agreements. On page 99, you'll see our independent report on compliance regarding a federal and a state single audit. So this part of the comprehensive annual financial report, I would say, is new as compared to 2019 because in the fiscal year 2020, the village did receive substantial amount of grants from both federal and state agencies. And what happens is if you receive in excess and report in excess of $750,000 of federal or state expenditures, you're required to have a federal and or a state single audit. Because the village exceeded both thresholds, the village was subject to both a federal and a state single audit. And as mentioned on page 100, in our opinion, the village complied in all material respects with the material programs reported as a major federal program and major state project. If you turn with me to page 104, just gonna highlight the item that I did wanna bring to your attention and mention in our reports, which was the material weakness or an item for improvement. Item 2019-001 is regarding the inadequate controls over the pension trust fund. During the audit process, it came to our attention that the pension plan records were delayed due to untimely reconciling of some items. We believe the cause was the lack of understanding of the technical aspects of the plan financial reporting by the plan administrator, which is held outside of the village's finance department. Due to the inadequate controls and understanding, the pension plan administrator was not able to completely close and reconcile the plan's financial records, and in essence, putting in jeopardy the timely reporting of the village's financial statements. Therefore, we bring it to your attention. As noted in management's response to the item, the pension board has decided to separate from its current plan administrator, and they did engage a new plan administrator effective October 1st, 2020, which is the first day of your fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. Following our reports, the last report is on page 115 regarding Florida Statute 218.415. Florida statutes require us to test the compliance of your investment policy, and we do so by comparing your investment portfolio against your underlying investment policy. And based on our audit results and audit procedures, we have no items of non-compliance to bring to your attention. Aside from the comprehensive annual financial report, we also released on March 26th a communication letter. And the communication letter includes items that are reported outside of the comprehensive annual financial report, which are two items that are held in this letter. The first thing is any difficulties that we had in performing the audit outside of the delay with the pension items. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management, the finance department, and your human resource department. As you're aware, due to the pandemic, much of our audit in certain items had to be performed on a remote basis. And as such, this required more time, effort, and burden on your finance department due to the fact that they had to produce everything on an electronic basis. I want to thank Benjamin, Arturo Morron, and Juan Gutierrez for helping us throughout the audit process. As you're aware, we released this report on March 26th. And as many of you may know, the village has not produced a comprehensive annual financial report by the March 31st expected due date, which is considered best practice in the past 5 years. This is the first time in the past 5 years that the finance department has been able to produce the comprehensive annual financial report prior to March 31st. Second, we use this letter to bring to your attention any disagreements with management regarding the financial reporting or disclosure of accounting transactions, and we're pleased to report that no such disagreements arose during the course of the audit. Also with me here today is Ms. Rachel Johnson. She served as the audit manager and was on site on certain dates, meeting with finance department throughout the audit process. I served as the audit partner. In addition to both of us, there's an entire audit team and quality control department that helped and assisted us throughout the audit process. That completes our presentation and review of the comprehensive annual financial report. And I will open it now to any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, Councilmember Laredo is recognized.
Trying to translate for those who are participating from the community into plain English, some of the highlights. We received this on March 26th for ending the September 30, 2020 year. Is this the fastest that we have gotten an audit statement?
In the past, the last time that the village has been able to produce a village comprehensive annual financial report was for September 30th, 2015. That was released on March 29th, 2016.
So the answer to my question in brief is this is the first in 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I hope people out there are listening. It also is an unmodified opinion, which means it's a clear bill of health.
When it comes to a financial audit, yes. For financial purposes, yes.
Thank you. It's the deficiencies that you highlighted, or one, were really related to an entity that is not directly the village government. Is that correct? Which is the pension fund.
Yes. But I would like to elaborate on why it's.
Yeah, but it's a yes, a yes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, there's one material weakness, and that was directly related to the pension trust fund. As you are aware, the village of Key Biscayne is funding this pension trust fund. The pension trust fund is reported as a fiduciary fund inside the comprehensive annual financial report. As such, in summary, it represents an entity that you're funding or have a responsibility for. Therefore, that information is required to be part of the comprehensive annual financial report. The village does not have the option or liberty to exclude that. As such, as part of the audit, it is my responsibility to include that as part of my audit. And therefore, we came through an exception. That's why we bring it to your attention.
Correct. But what I want you to state in a shorter way is for the taxpayers' money that we manage and for which we're responsible to financially report back to them. A, this is the fastest we had in 5 years. B, it has a clean bill of health. And because of the affiliation, which is not directly related or under responsibility of an affiliated entity, which has caused in the past delay and your so-called deficiency, it is not a deficiency of the jurisdiction of this village council as properly elected by the people of Key Biscayne.
Yes, so I think you wanted me to clarify 3 things. Yes, It has been 5 years since the village has been able to produce a report prior to March. When it comes to a financial statement audit, the highest regard that one could receive is an unqualified opinion or unmodified opinion when it comes to a financial statement audit. And that is what the village received. The third option was the fact that our material weakness that we bring to your attention is not directed to the finance department of the village, but we are under the purview to report it to you due to the fact that—
I understand, Moises, I understand. And you're very professional, very elaborate, but sometimes we're not all sophisticated. The bottom line is, for what is directly under our control, our management, our finance department, and our village council as elected, we have a clean bill of health on the way we manage their hard-earned money and they pay in taxes. The answer to that question, I'm not putting words in your mouth, is yes. Yes. And we will move forward to making the pension fund more efficient. But our responsibility has been 200% improved since the coming in of our chief financial officer, and we are in very, very good position, which is great news, I think.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Questions? Councilmember Moss?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Benjamin and the whole team, Chuck, our chief press, for all the work that you guys did, because this came in as we asked for it within 6 months. I think last year it came in July or something, and we made it a point to move it quicker, and they delivered. So thank you very much, and I think it's great that we got this in time.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Just I wondered, because I'd read something, and what is a low-risk auditee under the uniform guidance? What is that?
Okay, perfect. So because what is the uniform guidance is the standards that require the village to have a single audit due to the fact that you received over $750,000 in federal and state expenditures. Those expenditures are reported on page 101. The village received and reported expenditures of federal awards of $1.5 million, and when it came to state awards, just over $800,000. The question that you bring to our attention is, there's on page 103, it says the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee pursuant to the uniform guidance, and the answer is no. The requirement for you to be a low-risk auditee is that you must have 2 consecutive single audit reports. And you ask yourself, why haven't you? Because you did not exceed those thresholds over the past 2 years. So because of that, you do not qualify as a low-risk auditee.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Go ahead, Councilmember.
Very brief question and then a suggestion. As you're, in essence, our auditor, but sort of our counselor in a broader sense as we move forward. And as you know, between the two one big or two big emergency bills coming out of Washington and maybe a third one, there may be a lot of different kinds of income. If you cash income, you heard me, we're going to talk about one of them later. I hope from your point of view, start analyzing how to financially responsibly account for those. Because I have a feeling the next audit is going to have a lot of new things other than the boilerplate because of all the, the help that is coming out of Washington, sometimes in a not entirely organized. So just help us and do that together. That would help a lot. And second, perhaps, Mayor, I wonder if I could suggest that we assign Ed London to look at it with a lot more time, and either at the next meeting or the one if anything hits you, it would be great. You're really by far.
Okay, go ahead.
They basically had a manager. Well, previously the pension fund.
Your volume, Vice Mayor.
The pension fund had a manager for a number of years, and basically she resigned, and we had all kinds of problems. We almost lost the 175, 185 funds from the state a couple years behind. It wasn't entirely her fault, we weren't able to give her good finances in regards to payroll from the village. But that's all been corrected. Then they hired a new manager, and obviously this new manager, again, is not up to the standard that we require. So that has been taken care of, and I think in the future, the numbers and the counts and everything that Moises needs to do his audit will be promptly furnished to him. I don't think it'll be a problem going forward.
Thank you. Wait, hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up, and I think one of us put it on discussion today, where I think it might have been Moss, about the unfair burden that we as private citizens with full-time jobs and families get these very complicated subjects. We got them just this week and need to respond. I already know what I reflected, but you are by far more qualified. I wonder if you can take the job leisurely to read it and maybe make comments that may hit you for next. I make that into a motion.
Everything I've seen looks good. That's all I got.
Okay. Well,
but I will be happy to.
If you have anything, why don't you come back and, next meeting, why don't you come back if you have any comments?
Yes,
discussion items. Perfect.
My pleasure.
Anybody else have comments or questions?
Just a suggestion is, I think this is a good idea, and I think that Ed's contribution would be very welcome. One of the thoughts that occurred to me in reading this, and I read these things in my work too, is how they're presented. And I know that you have standards to follow in the presentation, but there are instances, I think, of redundancies and ordering. For example, the highlights to get to page 104 and 113 requires quite a laborious read. And if there's a way to have an executive summary or something more convenient up front so that we can really get the gist of the thing without wading through the document, I'd like to see whether that's possible.
You definitely could have an executive summary, which would basically give you the essence of everything and not all the intricate details, which probably aren't meaningful to most people who read it. They're looking at the big picture. And as long as nothing stands out, there's no reason to have all the intricate things in the executive summary. So that can be done with no problem. I'll work with Benjamin. We'll come back with an executive summary for the next meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Moss?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, because it was brought to my attention, there was an article that had me quoted in there, and I think it was a misquote, and I'll talk to Tony Winton about it. But I was speaking about the prior year being late, not this year. So I just read it, and I just want to make that clear that I had no issues on quality, but it was the speed, and I was talking about the year prior at that time. Thank you.
Thank you all for this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you to Benjamin and staff and chief for everybody getting this together and getting it out as quickly as possible. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who moved it?
Frank. Give it to Frank.
And who seconded?
It's not a competition.
Sure was Frank.
Everything's a competition, Frank.
And I'm sorry, who seconded?
I second it. Okay.
Sorry, I forgot who came from one of my ears.
I just want to make a comment. If you go to the minutes of March 30th, which is the last meeting we had, and we all know about the meeting, I just want to congratulate Jocelyn for her extraordinary maturity in distilling all of that into the following sentence. Yes. All this time there was extensive discussion from council regarding the village manager search. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Jocelyn. We will look to you for a diplomatic post as soon as we have one.
That was Churchill.
Right. Are we ready?
And there's a minor change to the March 9th minutes. Councilmember Segrola asked me for, so.
Which is that? What?
I can
please read it to us.
Yes. On page 7. Under there was extensive discussion from council regarding the appointments. Councilmember Segurola addressed the council objecting to the appointments. So that added sentence after that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
As modified.
As modified. Let's go.
All those in favor of the consent
Aye.
agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, Mr. Mayor, is the second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending section 30-192, required signs of the Village Code of Ordinances relating to address numerals on waterfront properties, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's open this for public comments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you wish to speak to this ordinance and you are watching us on channel 77 on Comcast, channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website, please dial the following phone number, 305-365-7569. Then please enter the following meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you that are currently in the meeting or participating via the Zoom app, if you're on your telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand, or simply raise your hand within the application.
Okay, I don't think we have anybody signing up. That was me. I was curious if it worked. It works.
I got a comment, Michael, on this one.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely. Let's, why don't we have, yeah, I guess we can have comments now. Councilmember London?
Previously, am I muted? I'm muted. All right.
You're okay.
Previously, when this was brought up, there were certain owners of waterfront property who objected to this on the basis that possibly this would make it easy for undesirable thieves, etc., to find their property from the water. And I was thinking at the time, we talked about possibly having a system where you'd have a numbering system which did not equal the address, but the police or any other people who needed to have it could have this numbering system. And I don't know what's transpired, if the chief has thought about that, if he has a system, we're going to stick with just the addresses, and which would not take care of the objections of people who lived on the water.
Okay. Chief, are you here? There he is.
Hey, Mayor, Council. I'm recommending that we use the addresses. However, if that is the wish of the council, then the council directs the manager, and I will direct us to come up with some type of a codification where we could just establish a numerical system that our Marine Patrol officers would be allowed to address a response. However, remember, we're not the only ones who respond via the water. You have FWC, City of Miami, Miami-Dade, most Marine Patrols in Miami-Dade County. I see you, Ed, but please understand me for a second. We are a very small community of Marine Patrols. And if there is an emergency, all Marine Patrols are directed to respond. Therefore, what they would normally do would be to use a GPS and respond to an address that was given regarding that emergency. It's strictly up to the council. I've made my recommendation, and I'll follow whatever guidelines you all provide. My recommendation is that we have addresses in front of our homes. And why would it be different if we had numericals, not a full address, just a number on the back of our homes? Because mailmen respond to your house and everybody else responds to an address in front of your home. And that's my recommendation.
Basically, I understand where you're coming from. It certainly makes good sense. I was just repeating the objections we had previously from waterfront residents who thought this would be help undesirables find their homes from the water. That's why I brought it up. I understand where you're coming from. And if we can't make a system which makes it easy for all those other, excuse me, I would say, police, fire, public works, anybody else who needs it, then obviously we have to stick with the address, unless you can come up, or somebody else can come with another system to make it easy. I don't know. I don't know of a system.
I can tell you that when I was in Marine Patrol in Miami Beach, we had a very serious crime problem from the water. We established a ordinance similar to what we're asking for tonight, and it worked remarkably well to allow for a response by and fire rescue personnel. I'll also say that we had a town hall meeting regarding this. We put flyers throughout every waterfront property owner, and I have not personally received any objections. Nobody objected during the town hall meeting. So I have followed all the guidelines that were proffered by the village council, and I've done everything that you all have asked us to do. This is a request for public safety. It depends on your response.
Sounds good to me. Let's move on.
Councilmember Laredo, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you. I want to support this as strongly as I can. We have given the chief about 3 passes on this. You know, and also I'm going to tell you, since I'm usually like to get in trouble, the same people who may be objecting, I don't know who they are, they don't show up, are the one, you know, some of them are really concerned and putting more stress on our police department because of the trouble they're having with the vandalism and all the stuff in the way. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. And this is clear. And I just called the question. This is what our professional department wants, and we need to show them support as we're trying to fight all this kind of stuff.
Call the question.
You know, we can't please everybody. I called the question.
Yeah, well, Councilmember McCormick has the right to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just was going to add that while I understand people's original initial reaction of feeling like it's somehow giving out personal information, I do agree with Chief Press that if we have it in the front, the back is not all that different. The biggest thing that's different in today's world is that anyone with a smartphone and Google can know the address of every single house anywhere when you're next to it, if you're just looking from across the world. So I mean, with 2 clicks, you know what they paid for it and everything else. Right. So this to me seems like something that we do for safety.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's too easy to get the information just on a phone. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, let's call the question. It's been called.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Laredo? Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola? Yes. Mayor Davey?
Yes.
Motion passes. The ordinance is approved on second reading.
Okay, thank you.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving a waiver of plat for property located at 960 Harbor Drive, providing for conditions, providing for recording, and providing for an effective date.
Move. So moved. Second, third, fourth.
Who moved it?
I did.
Moss and Laredo both.
I came in third.
No, I did. I didn't.
Brett moved it. I don't know if Laredo seconded it.
No, I did not second.
Kaplan seconded
I like to talk to her when you let
me. Mr. Attorney?
Yes. I think the clerk just wants to know who made the motion, who seconded it.
Brett made the motion. Kaplan seconded the motion.
Thank you.
As you recall, this was at our last meeting. It was deferred to tonight. This will be a quasi-judicial hearing. We will need to swear in the witnesses. I believe the applicant is here again and does have a presentation. If the council, would like to, and Ms. Tappanis can speak to that. And we should open it up to a public hearing. But before each person speaks, Jocelyn, please swear them in.
Is there anybody here who would like to speak? Okay, I know that the attorney is here. Anybody else would like to speak on this issue? Okay.
Does Peter want to read the instructions?
Let's have Peter read the instructions.
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, watching us on channel 77 on Comcast, channel 99 on AT&T, or streaming us live via our website. If you wish to speak to this hearing, please dial the following telephone number. The number is 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For anyone currently in the meeting, either by telephone or via the Zoom app, and you wish to speak, if you are there by telephone, please dial *9. And if you are there on the Zoom app, please raise your hand within the application.
Okay, I don't see anybody raising their hand. We had the presentation last time. Thank you to the attorney for returning. Are there any specific questions, or would you all like to see do you guys want to see the presentation again, or do we want to, do we have questions? Councilmember Laredo, you said you might have some questions?
No, I saw the whole presentation. I wanted to make a point for your consideration as a matter of policy.
Okay.
I think we all know that in real estate and land use changes, when a body politic like us, by its action, grants a value added to a property owner, either a seller and or a buyer, and in light of all other considerations like the impact on the community, et cetera, it's common legal practice to require either, people call them impact fees, some people concurrency requirements. And in Key Biscayne, we've lived through that rather forcefully in the largest development, Ocean Club, that donated enormous amount of money on infrastructure, and the Grand Bay, and lately, of course, the Priciana, which is the Constantinos Onesta project, that has gone directly to the benefit of the citizens and taxpayers of Key Biscayne for something that we gave a value added to those involved, which is fine because I'm a great capitalist. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I saw something about her body language of Councilwoman McCormick last time when I asked for this, about a difficult decision I made on Island Drive, where it was a close call on basically dividing a lot into two. And I'm not saying that I regret that decision, but I was not satisfied. Instead of bringing this issue openly like this as a matter of policy, I had hope, and the word went around informally that the people who were going to benefit from that decision would see it on their own social conscience besides the legal requirements to contribute something to our community. Without a dollar amount, without a specific necessarily project within the city or an organization. Therefore, I now decided that regress to what I've always wanted to learn from President Reagan: trust but verify, or get voted down. I believe it's very important. At the end of the day, and after reading all this stuff, what you're having here is dividing. I know it sounds, and they'll tell you that it's a small line that we're moving, but fundamentally, this is going to be one big, gigantic #1 lot in the Key to become two. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that probably the intent, either whether now or therefore, is to build another home in one of the lots. Consequently, to my point, that there's substantial benefit. Needless to say, as we know, speaking specifically of impact, we have terrible traffic problems. We have infrastructure problems that we're paying through these bond issues that we're going to issue to it. And so it's only just fair, I believe it's legal, that we put as a condition that the petitioner pledge to work with staff to see how they can contribute to our community. It could be parts of the village itself. We have a land trust, as you know, that was given a substantial amount of cash by the Sonesta development. There is Art in Public Places, which is an organization that we have that buys expensive art and sculptures for the benefit of our community and the beautification, all of which adds to the value of these properties. And there are enormous amounts of projects, school projects, all kinds of needs that government cannot meet. So I think it's right at the end of the day. It's fair, and it's in the spirit of this community that we put a condition of some sort of contribution, whatever the lawyer can tell us. The lawyer can tell us what can be called. But that is my reason for speaking up on this.
Could I just just make sure I understood part of what you were saying? Are you concerned about demolition and construction of, the Taj Mahal?
Me?
Yes.
No, I'm not. No, not at all. They can build the Taj Mahal and bring it down if they like to. I would object to the Taj Mahal. I'm saying I hold it to be a principle that I live by in corporate life. It's called corporate social responsibility. It's now, as you know, embedded in every corporation. In fact, it's mandated by the SEC on the annual reports. Mm-hmm. It is giving to society in general from benefits that you have. In real estate specifically, we get, because we make motions, we make concessions that I value directly the value of the transaction. Mm-hmm. And for that, we require or ask for a compensation for public good, for public purpose, like parks, for example, art in public places, something in the community center, something to do with the schools, even our jurisdiction. And we need to start maximizing those kinds of advantages that benefits all of the citizens of Key Biscayne. This decision is they will, Frank, probably, I'm speculating, I don't have any evidence, but as well as I, since we live in the reality world, they're probably, let me just tell you further, Frank, that the other property I mentioned, which was supposed to be one for a residence of the developer and the other one for selling, it is my understanding that both have been sold. And God bless them. They made an enormous amount of money in less than 6 months. And to be honest with you, while I thought that I was led to believe that they would do a gesture, and I didn't bring it up at the time, that was my mistake. We have not received any such gesture. So I don't want to make the same mistake again. And I think it's healthy, right. and it's fair, and it's right.
Let's hear from the attorney. She's just got her hand raised. How are you?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for hearing this item this evening. Consistent with your professional staff's recommendation, we're requesting your approval of this waiver of plats. I'm happy to show you some actual what we're proposing to do, because it is not like Island Drive. We are not proposing a lot split. Today, the property is 2 lots, and simply due to the lack of recording of a unity of title, there is an encroachment on the village's setback regulations. What we're proposing before you today is to shift the original lot line several feet so that the property can be sold as 2 different parcels, which is how it was purchased. This is owned by a village resident that proposes to stay in this actual home, in one of the homes, the larger of the homes that is encroaching on the setback materials. I'm happy to share my screen and show that if it's helpful.
Melissa, before you do that, just to be clear, because we didn't swear you in, which is fine.
Does she have to be sworn in? Right.
As a lawyer, you can be advocating. So I presume that you're just advocating, and and that's fine at this point. I think we can proceed without swearing her in.
Right.
I'm happy to be sworn in as well as a member of the bar. So the proposal is simply to shift the original lot line. It will continue to be 2 lots as it was originally master planned as part of the Cape Florida subdivision, as was originally constructed. What we're speaking to here is that there was an addition of one of the 2 existing residences that encroaches on a lot line. The Village of Key Biscayne issued a building permit to allow for that addition that encroaches on that original lot line without recording a unity of title. So the owner had no knowledge that there was this encroachment. And although the property today is owned by 2 different property owners, as it has been done for many years. So again, the proposal here, unlike Island Drive, is not to create 2 lots. The Island Drive case was 1 lot that was subdivided into 2. This property is 2 lots originally owned by 2 different entities, again, related to the existing owner. And simply the goal is to shift that original lot line. With that said, there will be permit fees and impact fees because as part of the recommendation before you, we are proposing to demolish the accessory structures on one of the 2 lots, and there will be the construction of a new home. That new home will pay, of course, permit fees and impact fees. I'm available to answer any questions, and I'm happy to show the actual proposal before you if there's any questions.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Councilmember Laredo, ask your question.
I am perfectly aware. I read all your documents. Congratulate you on the good work. A lot of verbatim stuff. On the basis and the policy that you know well of caveat emptor, I imagine the buyer made a mistake or there's a deficiency that he overlooked. If you not bring this to us, you may have other avenues to correct that. And so the fact that there is a deficiency, it falls upon us to correct it. It is my view that that would, as I said earlier, enhance, but I hear you saying that notwithstanding, as a matter of policy, which we are a policy body, and I'm not comparing you to any one property. I'm talking about how other developments here had substantial contribution to this community for which they should be applauded and for which this village council held them accountable as a condition. And therefore we have a free park. We have on Crandon, the lake park, and we have a beautiful beach adjacent to stuff. So this is standard. I don't want to get into the weeds of whether it's a little line or a little object, but I hear you that my appeal to you and or your client is that this falls on deaf ears. Is that correct? So that we don't waste any more time. You may have the votes. I feel very strongly about this as a matter of policy. And I think it's in the spirit of Key Biscayne to beyond that we do this kind of, Key Biscayne nice. Everybody likes to talk about it, but when you have an opportunity to contribute, we should contribute. There's an enormous amount of needs here for children, for all kinds of things. We're on the process of acquiring property for parks, so the property values like that one increases in value. And I just think it's something that it's the right thing to do, actually. But I guess
let me just.
I would first say that this is not falling on deaf ears. This is a village resident that contributes to your community in many ways.
Okay.
And the point here is that the value will stay the same because it is 2 lots and it is what he purchased. Again, this is shifting a lot line. We would respectfully request moving forward with this quasi-judicial item based on the regulations before this council and in your village code.
Does anybody have any other questions? All right, let's call the question.
Councilmember Laredo?
No.
Vice Mayor London?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
Councilmember Moss?
Yes.
Councilmember Segurola?
You're muted.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Mayor Davey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is public comments.
Well, we're actually after 8, so do we want to? Well, let's do public comments. If Chief, do you mind if we do the public comments? Just see if there's anybody here who wants to speak.
We deferred B, right?
We deferred. Yes, correct.
Okay.
We deferred B, and of course not.
All right. Thank you. Pete, let her rip.
Yes, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you watching us at home on channel 77 on Comcast, on channel 99 on AT&T Uverse, or streaming us via our website, if you wish to make any public comments, please dial the following phone number. The phone number is 305-365-7569. Then please enter the meeting ID of 231-627-8415. For those of you that are currently in the meeting via telephone or via the Zoom app, if you wish to speak, please dial *9 on your telephone or simply raise your hand via the Zoom app. Mayor, I have no one signed up for public comments.
Okay, let's close public comments. Let's go on to the village manager's report.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is reports and recommendations. Village manager, manager's ongoing project update.
Mayor, council, we have a few things we want to talk about tonight, but the first thing we want to bring up, something that Council Member Cigarola brought up in the past and asked us to address, and I think it's a very important project, is the 530 Grandin Boulevard project. I'm just going to give you a brief description on where we've been, and then I'm going to turn it over to Todd to ask him to identify where we are now. And my recommendation would be that we move forward with this. However, again, that's up to you all. This project, or this attempt to finish this project, has been going on for approximately 11 years. We have revised this project on 4 different occasions. We have spent approximately $317,000 on redesign, and redesign. We are now in 2021, and we have an opportunity, I believe, to provide the village with a park that's memorable and something that I think could be a spectacular input to the village's infrastructure. And with that, Todd has been in contact with the current designer, and I will ask Todd to provide you all with that information.
Sure. Good evening. As you recall, on February 23rd, the Village Council had a discussion with proceeding with the modified scope for this park. Going back a little further, on December 8th, the council will recall that they were presented a grant for $200,000 for this project. After the February 23rd meeting, staff reached out to Critical Path Services and requested that they reach out to their subcontractors and obtain updated cost elements for the project to account for the 16 months that had passed since the project was originally presented. That came back at a total cost of $1,312,374. Staff is eager to proceed with this project as directed by the will of the Village Council.
Mayor stepped out. I guess Vice Mayor, I'd just like to make a few comments.
Yeah.
If you will remember, a couple meetings ago, I think Todd said it was February 23rd. I thought it was sooner than that, but a couple meetings ago, we brought up the issue of just finally doing something on 530. It's had a 19-year tortured history. I had a conversation with Todd and with Jake. I asked them, we basically have 2 possibilities with the park. Number one, we have the current plan with all the bells and whistles, all the designs we've gone over. The price for that is about $1.3 million and change. And with a $200,000 grant, it's $1.1 million and change. I'm ready to vote on that today. If for some reason that price is too high, I also discussed with Todd and Jake doing the minimum requirements on that park just to get it up and running and an open, as clean and simple park as possible. Todd recommended that we do at least need to take care of flooding issues and just some basic things there, which I think he told me, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around the $400,000 or $500,000 range is what it would cost to bring it up to everything that you recommended. Is that right?
Yeah, but I think the priority would be the substructure, the base of the park, the drainage, the irrigation, so that if we were to do additional things in the future, we have an optimal design to do so.
Right. So basically, those are the choices before us. We vote on the current plan at $1.1 million, or we do the minimum possible, which will be $400,000 or $500,000. Either way, I think we should vote on it tonight. Let's get this done and move on.
What? You need something?
I'm muted. Look at me. I did it. Councilmember Kaplan, then Councilmember Laredo.
I would like to move on this as well.
Oh.
What I don't remember, and maybe you could help me with, is I think the last design that I remember seeing last term before I was retired was Giordano. And the last iteration of that plan removed the pump track and installed a kind of a bronze plaque walkway that would indicate historically significant events to be designed in collaboration with the history people and the art board. Is that where you remember being left off?
The last design presentation, I think, was December 2019, November 2019, around there. And that's where we had the current plan. I think it was whittled down even more. And I saw that there were some bad copies in the materials attached to the agenda that weren't very clear, but it was a very clean design, some very modern looking lights, very modern looking benches. There was no bandstand area that was considered once. I think it had a pergola or something like that. It was a pretty clean design, very modern and very open.
So the bandstand went away. That
went away. All that went away. Basically, it's going to be more of an open grass kind of thing, where much more flexible to whatever events will take place.
But Frank, I think when we took those things out, trying to get the cost down, like the pump track and the bandstand, I spoke with Todd about this, and what he told me is that the infrastructure for, like, say, the electricity and all of that type of stuff to be able to bring in entertainment type features and functions is included in this plan that we have in front of us now. Right?
It creates flexibility for the future. That is part of the $1.1 million.
So, for example,
like
the
a flex park
concert series could be located
Correct.
at 530.
Correct.
Okay.
And it has all the electrical necessary and all that. Yes.
Yeah. Councilmember Laredo, you recognized, and then we'll go back to Councilmember.
Thank you. Todd, remind me, the original, when I joined this council about 2 years ago, what was the number, more or less? 2 million something?
Yes, sir. It was 1.8 and change.
So what you're proposing is $600,000 less?
Yes, sir.
And you really like this?
I think it would provide a fantastic opportunity for the community. And as stated, is flexible. It can serve a great deal of purposes. It still has the electrical pull stations to do concerts. If you recall, when we've had Winterfest out there, we use it tremendously. Every time we shut down kind of the Civic Center complex and use the fountain area combined with this.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, sir.
And also, this is, Mr. Mayor, the work of a lot of people over a lot of years.
Dr. Kelly,
who devotes a lot of time, has in the past. I hope he come back to the council. I move the recommendation of staff for 5:30.
Okay, hold on.
Just Chad. So I'm clear. So it's a $1.2 million project underneath our charter that would require a capital authorizing
Correct.
ordinance.
Yes.
So is the direction then for us to bring that forward?
Well, we've got two more I've got two more council members who want to speak, and then,
I'm sorry.
Then I think we'll have direction.
Okay.
Councilmember McCormick and then Councilmember Moss.
So, Todd, this still includes the historical elements, right?
Yes.
Okay, so basically it's like a similar field to what we have on Harbor, but with these historical elements and all the extra infrastructure underneath, and a lot of, I just want to make sure I find something up for myself. Underneath is where the majority of the work is going to go, because it's such sort of a mess over there. We have to clear it out, fix it up, and then lay the foundation for this open.
Yes, the living room area has been reduced, but still exists just out front of the entrance to the community center. There's a drinking fountain, bike racks, all the core elements you would like to find in a park.
Okay, and the area between the park and SunTrust, are we leaving that sort of open? What's happening there?
That will be landscaped heavily to kind of buffer between the two properties. That was the site where at one point we included an allowance of $75,000 to underground those power lines, but that has been removed from this scope.
So if we don't do that now, what happens to the heavily landscaped area when we decide to do it later?
It would be disturbed greatly.
So we would end up losing money on all of the things that have grown there. So I would like to propose that we talk about adding back in the undergrounding of that just along that area on the property line between SunTrust and the park, so that I think it's stupid to invest money in landscaping, watch it grow, increase in value, and then tear it out and have to replace it down the road.
I agree.
How much would that be, Todd?
Our allowance for that, it was $75,000.
I would agree with that.
I would agree with that.
Me too.
well.
I would as well.
Definitely.
Councilmember Moss, or any more from Councilmember McCormick? I'm sorry. Do you have anything else?
No, I think I've got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilmember Moss?
That was the exact thing I was going to bring out, was the underground.
Great. All right. Well, okay.
One last question. The Badia Plaza will go in, and it'll be on the Crandon Boulevard side to the south.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Excellent. Thank you for bringing this back, and let's go forward.
So is the direction
sorry, Councilmember McCormick.
What kind of a timeline do you see to fully develop this once we approve the funds and you can get going?
Like Chad's saying, we'll bring back the second reading of the capital authorizing ordinance, and I see Russ is here from Critical Path. Russ, or if you can hear me, can you address the timeline issue? If you spent. When we bring this back at the next council meeting, I'll have an updated timeline for you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cigarelli, you want to say something?
No. So basically, just to let everyone know, April 27th will be the second reading of the ordinance, and we're adding in the undergrounding of the power lines on the edge of the property, and then that's it. We'll be ready to go in the park.
It'll be a first or a second reading?
Yes, first reading.
First reading?
I think we did go to first reading on this ordinance.
Okay. Well, yeah, but I thought so much time had passed. Yeah, I remember. Okay, great.
I mean, we can proceed to second reading, I believe. Todd and I will confer. But for the record, just so we're clear when we prepare it, so is the number now 1.275? So it's $1,275,000.
That's right. I think that because the 75 for the undergrounding.
Well, Todd, wasn't it $1,001,000 something with the $200,000 grant? I thought it was under one.
It was 1.31
minus 200.
But so the grant will be a reimbursement when the project is completed.
So it'll be 1,385,000.
Yes, sir.
And then later we'll get 200, so it'll end up being 1,185,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And Todd, the schedule of values we had on October 15th, they went up because of time? Is that?
Yes,
they used to be 1.195.
Yes. Why we're back to you with the different numbers, because after hearing council's request to move forward, we requested an updated schedule of values from the company.
All right.
Mayor, I move as amended.
Well, I think we've directed council. We as a
Yeah,
body have
we'll
directed
bring
them,
it forward.
and then
We'll
it'll
bring
come
it forward. We'll bring
I'm just
it forward
getting,
and we'll do the other.
given to my other discussion about trust but verify and words in the air, I like to sort of get things on the record. Is it okay to just pass a resolution so it's clear? Because later people talk about consensus. I don't know. I just like to make a motion. Wouldn't that be more solid and just vote on it, or you rather not?
Oh, I think I don't know. To be fair, I think it would be Councilmember Cigarola's motion for a resolution because he's the one running this thing.
I would agree with you, except there's really nothing to do except the second reading of the ordinance,
right?
to approve it. So the motion.
I'm just trying to send a message to the public that we took a very concrete, it's symbolic, but I'm not,
good there.
That we took, there's nothing like a motion and a vote rather than we had consensus or the check is in the mail.
I think it's unanimous. I don't think there's anybody opposing it.
I stand corrected then. Sorry.
In unanimity?
Okay.
Unanimity for the second time tonight.
Yes, this is good. We're moving. Next item.
Okay.
It's still the manager's report.
Next item, I would like to continue with Todd, if you don't mind, and he's going to discuss the Calusa Park in our local.
Sure. Good evening again. While Calusa Park is in our municipal boundaries of the village, it's part of Crandon Park and subject to the Crandon Park Master Plan. The village operated the park for approximately 20 years before we'd entered into a interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County in 2011. That expires in September, and staff is here notifying you of our intent to request one of three 10-year extensions allowable in that original agreement.
Great.
Is now a good time to try to renegotiate and expand our discretion and sort of infuse some better design sensibilities for Calusa? Now that we're going to be engaging with the county anyway?
It is.
I think, yes, I suppose we're moving in that direction.
Mayor, I would make a suggestion that if that's the will of the council, that we hold off on that until we choose a new manager, and that he is allowed to enter in those discussions.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Do we put anything at risk by doing that, by waiting to renew or by reopening negotiations?
Hold on, you were muted. Ask the question again.
Sorry. Todd, when's the deadline to exercise this option?
We have 90 days from September.
September coming up?
Yes.
Okay, so we basically got 8-9 months. Okay.
We ought to strategize.
I'm sorry, it was 180 days.
Okay, so we have literally basically almost a year. It's
but
March,
it would have to be
March
done
of
by
next
September.
year.
90 days before September.
You're allowed to request in writing in as many as 180 days before it expires.
Got it.
It expires in September.
Okay.
Right, so that would be 6 months, right? Before that would be
March.
And we're in April.
So we have 5 months out of 6 left.
All right, so I think you want to renegotiate this, is what you're saying, Frank? You want us to consider renegotiating?
and discuss it.
I think we want to do this for sure.
Right.
But it seems to me to be time to strategize Crandon Park more generally.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. We've got some.
I would agree with Chief Press, though. It's something that the next manager.
I think the next manager, yeah. Okay, well, let's leave.
But I agree with Frank. We should basically think about negotiating or discussing, is a nicer word, our future.
I think we have a better reception at the county now. We've had great ideas.
No, absolutely. Yes. Let's have some conversations. Why don't we put that on for the next meeting?
Okay.
Or the May, or the, I think to Chuck's point, let's wait for the decision process on the manager. All right. Next,
I would like to have Roland talk about the beach Nourishment program.
Good evening. Yes, good evening, Council. Beach renourishment is progressing well. They're 22 working days into the project. Right now, they're renourishing the beach. They're renourishing the beach adjacent to the Ocean Club. As of April 2nd, they've put 31,807 tons of sand down on the beach out of a total of 42,200 tons. Their look ahead on the schedule is anticipating tilling, which is the final task in the project, around April 16th, which is the end of next week. We'll see how close to that mark they get. Right now, one of the major challenges that they're having is obtaining the plantings that are needed to complete the renourishment of the dunes. There was a significant pest problem, fungus problem across the industry relative to dune plants. And so they believe they may have finally identified a set of vendors that they can get the plants from. I'm supposed to hear from them towards the end of this week as to what the status is of the plantings. But overall, the project is going smoothly. We've had some challenges with the use of the beach during the construction adjacent to the Ritz, but we're in constant contact with them. And so far, we're managing, but it hasn't been particularly easy, neither for the Ritz, nor for the contractor, nor for the resident project representatives. But so far, the ship's holding steady. So overall, the project is moving along on track. I do believe that we will be done with a little bit of time to spare relative to the May 1st deadline, which is the start of turtle season.
Excellent. And it's looking good. I mean, people are happy. They seem, I know there's some frustration, and I want to thank you all. I know staff's been dealing with residents' frustration, and I would ask that our residents bear with us. I think it's going as well as can be expected at this point. Let's just get through it. So thank you.
Steady she goes.
Last but not least, I would just like to bring Eric on, Chief Lang, to have a discussion on where we ended up with our mobile vaccine for our elderly.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Manager. In short, there was a homebound vaccine program that we initiated. The village recognized early on that we needed to assure that vaccines remain available to Key Biscayne residents. We made some big requests for some vaccines. As you recall, it was an expensive endeavor. There were supply chain problems, and the bottom line was we were unable to get our hands on vaccines. We partnered with Melissa White and the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, and her staff, Caroline, Ramya, Jane, and Andrew, they are awesome. Along with Roxy over at the community center and Todd's staff, we've been able to not only schedule appointments, but arrange for transportations to locations throughout Miami-Dade County. The foundation, I spoke with Melissa tonight, has made over 800 appointments for residents, which I think is truly awesome. And in March, we got our hands on an extremely limited amount of Pfizer vaccines. We had 15 homebound residents on the list. Most of these residents were between 80 to 100 plus years old. For every appointment that the foundation makes, which included this list, we had to make about 4 phone calls to make 1 appointment. We ultimately delivered 11 homebound and bedbound residents vaccines. And we had 9 additional doses that we provided to additional people that were on the list. All of those vaccines fell and complied within the governor's orders. The second dose was delivered on April 1st. The cost was just under $6,000. And I think everybody's aware at this point that the vaccines have become more available throughout Miami-Dade County. There's approximately 30 sites. The state has added capacity for the homebound program. At this time, I don't expect us to continue because I think that the need has been met. If there is a need for anything, as always, the village and our staff will find a way to address it. And just as far as this vaccine program goes, Captain Feeney and Dr. Adams, our medical director, were extremely an important part of implementing this process. And I thank everybody involved and for your support.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next item. Madam Clerk, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Next item is mayor and council members, role of council, residents, and advisory committees in relationship to village employees, Vice Mayor London.
No.
You're muted.
You're muted. Hey, there you go. Go. There, you're good. Go.
Thank you. I brought the item up because we've had some incidents, not many, but enough to cause some problems. And that is we have to know the roles of our residents, our council, our employees, and everybody else, and our manager. And basically, as a council, we delegate the management, the operation, to our manager. He in turn, or she in turn, goes ahead and delegates that to department directors, even though they have responsibility. And it's important that our residents know that when they have a problem, when they have a question, when they have a suggestion, they can't go ahead and tell the employees of the village or the directors, you have to do this, or don't do that, or stop doing this. You can't do that. They have to go through the proper channel. And the proper channel is the manager. The things should go to the manager's office. It should be clear, concise of what the problem is, or what you think, or what suggestions you have, and present that to them. If he in turn says, listen, that's a great idea, go speak to Todd, go speak to Eric, go speak to somebody else, that's fine. But basically, that way he knows what's happening, he knows what people are doing, he knows what his staff is doing, and he then can be responsible for it. So therefore, all I'm trying to say is that we can't have people telling our employees what to do, whether it's us as council members or other residents. It has to go through the manager, and we have to make that very clear to everybody. They can't do these things. And if we do that, I think and that goes with the advisory committees. Advisory committees are just that. They're advisory. They're here to advise the council for us to make decisions with their input, which we value, we cherish, and it's great, and they're great volunteers. But they also have to work through the system, through the manager, or whoever the manager delegates for them to work for. And I think this is very important. And I'm bringing it up because obviously we've had some problems. We almost lost one outstanding employee because of this. And it would be a shame if this happened in the future. So I just want to make everybody aware of it. And I think that people come to you, we have to make it clear to them, stuff goes through the manager. Thank you.
Same principle applies to us.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. That's very important. And I think as we talk about later in the meeting and at other times when we talk about advisory boards, it's an important thing to remember when we bring on new members to remind them how things should be done.
Mm-hmm. All right, next item.
Additional paddleboard stations at the entrance to Oceana, Vice Mayor London.
Thank you. I understand, have a very successful operation at the beach park. And now our vendors, our citizen vendors, entrepreneurs have another suggestion. And I think one of them is here tonight. Let me take a look. Ricky, or who's here tonight? Somebody is here. Let me see. Felipe Harroway. Do you want to speak, Felipe, and tell them what you have in mind? Felipe, can you hear me?
He can hear you.
Hello. Yes, of course. Thanks. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just here to give you guys
your name
an
and your address, Felipe.
Felipe Jauregui, 201 Galen Drive, apartment 204W, Key Biscayne, Florida, 33149. yes, as Mayor London said, we're local Key Biscayne residents, lifers, and we've started a paddleboard business in Key Biscayne. A little update, the Beach Park location was our first location in Florida that was on a public park, and it's been a huge success. It's currently at its max capacity. We've done over 2,000 rentals since 2019, and 500 rentals just in the last quarter. We are proposing that we add 2 locations on either side, on both sides of the Oceana path, which are public entrances. That would help alleviate and add an added value to the Key Biscayne community. A few improvements that we've learned and made to our stations are they're completely off the grid, so no electrical needed, as we did in the Key Biscayne Beach Park. Everything is run off solar power, and there is no concrete base, so no infrastructure or pouring concrete as we did at the beach park. We simply created a base that's removable and added just through a forklift, and so it's an easy install of 15 minutes or less. And our proposal would be to add 2 more locations along the beach at both ends of the Oceana, along with the 20% revenue share as we have going forward at the beach park, going towards to the city. And at no cost to the city, we handle all capital expenditure, and it will be pretty much a gift to all the residents to have our stations at those 2 ends of the Oceana path.
Felipe, I think what you guys have been doing is incredible. Let me ask you this question. How is that interaction going to be with the kite surfers that set up right near Oceana, I think on the north side of Oceana? Has that been worked out? Has that been talked about?
It's never been brought up to our attention, and we've operated since 2019 without any incidents. So I don't imagine it would be a concern going forward.
Okay. I just don't want to get ahead of anything. I think,
Is there launching area roughly where the sandbar used to be? That's basically
close. It's very close.
It's at the Silver Sands, I believe.
Yeah, right. Well, it's to the north of Oceana.
Before you move,
right there.
Right before Silver Sands.
You're a newcomer, Brett.
No, I think that's definitely something to explore. Roland and Todd and the manager would probably have to be involved in something like that.
Mayor Davey, if I could just jump in as a kite surfer, I don't think it'd be a problem, honestly. Okay. At some point, we need to reestablish the channel that the kite surfers use to get a certain distance away from the beach.
Right, I noticed that the other day.
Yeah, but I don't really think that the paddle boarders would interfere.
Okay.
And if the paddle boarders want to launch, they can launch outside of the channel. And I don't. The reality is that paddle boarders go when there really isn't any wind, and kite surfers go.
Yeah, that's true. It's a different. Yeah, that's probably.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Valid point. Valid point. All right. Excellent. Councilmember McCormick and then Councilmember Moss.
I loved this idea when it came to the beach park. I'm so happy it's been so successful, and I like the idea of expanding it. I just would like to ask that while we're exploring it and thinking about putting more in, that we do ask the company to reach out to the kite surfing community, only because while I agree with Roland that we're talking about very different weather, and am I frozen?
No.
Oh. No, none of you moved. It was like really strange. But I think we worked so hard for so long with the kite surfing community, and we found them a home, and they've worked really hard to be good stewards of the area and only set up so many kites at a time. And I just think it's important for that north end, before we put anything there, that we reach out to them and get their input and be respectful to the work that was done with the kite surfers.
Agreed. Councilmember McCormick, Councilmember Moss.
Yeah, I just think it's a great idea. I've used it many times and it's very successful. I agree with Councilmember McCormick. I would speculate they would be okay with it because I think they're fans of water sports and outdoor activities, and I'm sure a lot of them actually do both. And but I think that's a good idea that in this exploration we reach out to them.
Great. Yeah, just also one other point, as opposed to the beach park, which is our land, this is an easement. So we may have to consider what rights the Oceana has to weigh in on this. So we'll have to look in that as well. But I'd be for it.
We're talking about 4 boards on each location.
It's an easement. It's an
no,
easement.
I know. I just wanted to make sure that's what he's talking about, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, it would be similar to the beach park, just 4 boards in each side. I don't know if you guys had seen any weekend that it's nice. There's a line of at least 3 hours of people waiting for boards to come in and rent out. So we like to alleviate that.
Good for you guys.
For the residents of Key Biscayne and have more.
So I think it's great. Yeah, let's figure it out. All right. Thank you.
Basically, then we're talking about the possible problem with the kite service on the north end. Anybody seen a problem with the south end? If we have no problem with the south end when we go forward,
other than the Oceana easement.
Well, easy, okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
But other than that, let's get it.
We don't have to come back here. No, agree to it, and
that's
then
perfect.
basically there's no problem. They just do it.
Great.
Yes.
All right, everybody agree?
Yep. All right. Perfect.
Good. You're done.
Thank you, Felipe.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
We need no agreement.
No. Not right now.
Yeah, I think like what the mayor said is correct. I mean, I think we need to deal with that issue, but we do have an agreement with them. We will have to modify that agreement.
For space. Yeah.
The good news is they've been wonderful about like everything we've worked with them.
Good.
So,
thank you, Felipe.
Appreciate it, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, appointments to the Strategic Vision Plan Board, Mayor Davey.
I just want to get this done. All right. So we did open it up. I know that it went out on Village Connect. We had a number of people contact. It was actually a really nice thing for me, for us, really, because a lot of people, I talked to and I said, look, appreciate your interest. Also, if you're not selected for this board, would you be interested in other boards? Because we have a number of different positions that are going to be opening up on April 27th. And I think that was to your point. You also want to talk about that because we do need some rotation in the boards. With regard to rotation, again, I went through this and I talked to a bunch of different people. I talked to people on the board, the people I had appointed or nominated to be appointed at the last meeting. And, I still feel strongly that these folks deserve the opportunity. They've committed themselves to time. They got stunk with COVID. And I just feel like what I was going to do was come back, and I know Councilmember Laredo is probably going to like this even less, was I was going to come back and say, let's go back to the original 11 because, I'd rather have all these people move forward as a group and do it. And I didn't even go there. So I am sticking with my original 7. I am appointing Matt Bramson, Luis De La Cruz, Robert DeZuglu, Mario Garcia Serra, Lucia Marin, Tom McCormick, and George Mendia as my 7. That is, of course, now for your perusal and objection or approval.
So moved.
I mentioned this the last time, and I won't ever bring it up again.
Let me make one more point before you go. I did reiterate to everybody that contacted me. I said, even if you're not appointed to this board or any other board, you have every right as a resident to go and participate. And, some of the people, after I sent them back emails about this, they said, no, I want to be considered. And when people fall off, we will start rotating people through as things happen. But at this point, so I apologize, but I wanted to make sure that everything I put out there to people.
It's really good that you mentioned the participation part because historically showing up means a lot. You learn, you meet people, you get more engaged. And when it comes time for there to be an opportunity that you yourself can fill, you're more advanced in the knowledge. You're more familiar with the participation in the meetings and so forth and how things work. So that's very good. I would have gone to 11, but I will never bring it up again, and I'm fine with your slate. And your rationale makes sense to me.
I just felt, they deserve the opportunity to keep going for another year.
Well, I have different views, and they're in the spirit of trying to make this board functional and non-controversial. And here are some of my reflections. First of all, the quality of the people you're nominating is outstanding. There's no question about it. Second of all, the reason why it should be segregated from the other boards considering in the 27th because of the pandemic doesn't have any weight on me because we are much more responsible. We run this city and we have functioned extremely well with the pandemic, with visual. So that, I'm not sure, I not mean to put words in your mouth, it's not an excuse, but that's not a rationale for saying they didn't participate. We participated. We participate almost too much. We have 2-3 meetings a month for over a year and a half and got real big business of this community done. So that argument does not hold water. And in fact, other committees are meeting. Second of all, it's actually at the beginning of this discussion last time, I was trying to move it. I think it should be 7 because we're going to be consistent. And we set some rules. We had to follow them. That Councilman Segurola suggested that we open it to the public. And I was astonished, just like I was astonished and pleased that in the last election, we had 10 candidates for village council. I think the most ever in the history of Key Biscayne, notwithstanding who you voted for or what you thought of relevant, there were at least 7 of them were absolutely brand new people. I was very pleasantly surprised that 17 people replied to our thing saying, and some pretty good people, and so to have gone through that exercise, getting 17 people to respond and say, well, it didn't change my mind. It's already, this discussion we had earlier and me and Moss, when there's a community that is still trying to work itself out of a conflict and theories of conspiracy, this sort of lends to that. It would be more prudent to take a look. Also, I think you've done that and the charter, and if you read the language, probably wasn't perfect. It's sort of a communal appointment. And you appoint or propose, but, I think you take note that each one of us represent people and we should have a right to at least suggest people to you and then vote them up and down. So I'm trying to get back to that spirit. I want to not start this. This is not just another committee. This is a board that has $165,000 in its checkbook, which could be very helpful to us and to the manager, and not in planning. I have other ideas, but in actually moving in a direction of a lot of things that are happening. Like I just told you, these $5 million are coming through. So you know how I feel about consultants and projections, but expertise can be helpful to us. For example, there's not an engineer, not one that I know of. I could be wrong.
Robert DeZugal is an engineer.
He's an engineer?
Yes.
Okay. And then I stand corrected. I have, I think that we talked about before, someone that we all know and respect, Servando Parapar, who spent all his life in engineering in the private and the public sector. He, I saw on the list of the 17, and it's somebody that we should meditate on. Second of all, or third or fourth of all, I have, in public life, I think perception is more important than reality. And certainly you can be doing something perfectly legal, but it doesn't look right. I think there's 1 or 2 members of this committee that you're appointing that have direct dealings with this village council, even as we speak. And for a lot of people, it doesn't sit well. I could be corrected. It doesn't look right. And so for a number of reasons, I thought that you can take a pause with Brett and get the same kind of people. Most of them, 5, 6 or 5 out of 7, but to do all of this, and I ask those people who are doing that, if they're listening, that they ought to consider it too, because if you're coming and doing business with the village, I don't think it looks right. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. And that weighs heavily in a lot of the comments I've gotten from people. And that's my efforts to tell you in a one-on-one to sort of, you know, because we all know these people, but, you know, I'm just trying to avoid and eliminate those little pockets of controversy. And I don't see the rush, but that's my thought. I have, you know, the conflicts, I think you know who they are, or the possible conflict or the perception. And the idea that we can pick one of the 17, then it was kind of it reinforces the clique mentality. Well, I mean, I'm being candid with you. I can't say it any better than, you know what I mean? It's going to create that perception.
You're muted.
I know. I apologize. I just unmuted myself. I understand that perception. I did look through the people who did send me resumes. I think there are some good people. To your point about COVID, they were really waiting, and Brett, you could probably confirm this. They were waiting more for us to give them the consultant that they were asking for. That, you know, that was what's going on. The chair and our liaison were waiting for that to really get moving. You know, I respect your opinion on this. I am absolutely happy to sit with you on the rest of the committees that come forward. But on this one, I just want to get these people dedicated their time. I didn't just pick them out of a hat. They were people that were brought to us by council members when we originally formed this board. And I just want them to stay on and continue to do the job. I respectfully, I think I understand what you're saying about conflicts. I don't think there are any conflicts. They all mean well. They're all intended to do the best they can for this community.
Well, what I mean by conflict, I said the perception of conflict. In my practice, in my life, we all have our, if you're coming before a public body, which and requiring something from either selling them something or getting decisions, it's not, first of all, I wouldn't do it, or most people wouldn't do it, because it creates a perception of conflict.
Yeah, and
here you have it, and it happens to be the one committee that has money. Look, I know how difficult it is for you to make the decision. I don't know where Segurola, who initiated the opening it up to public, and I honestly, to be honest with you, I thought maybe 1 or 2 people, because I never read those notices, would respond, and I was overwhelmed. And by the way, happy over the people are participating. And so there's like a little bottleneck, you know, and I think, as sure as I'm standing here, that it will be a mistake to do this.
You mentioned that this committee has money. The committee has money primarily to pay a consultant. None of them are getting any money for their services.
Of course not, Ed.
I don't think they're even getting pizza, really.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You know,
guys.
Anyway, and as far as the conflict goes, since they're basically advisoring, I mean, it really gives this appearance of conflict. One of the members has a relationship with someone else who might be making a decision. Basically, he has better line of communication, that's all, because they're going to communicate with us, telling us what they agree, what they think we should do, how they advise us. We're the ones who make the decision. This person might be able to make his communications much more personal, much more often, but still he benefits nothing by that. Anything, maybe we benefit because maybe this communication helps convey to us what the committee actually arrives at. So I don't see this as a normal conflict in that sense. I understand the perception, and I'm against conflict, but I don't really see that in this case.
Councilmember Segurola?
I agree with Councilmember Laredo with regard to the issue of expertise and new people that are interested. I think that a gentleman like Servando Parapar, if he's interested in this kind of committee, I believe he's got over 40 years of experience in large projects. if people like him, and it's worth going through the list and the qualifications of everyone that threw their hat in the ring, are willing to serve on a committee like this, there is no reason to replace people that do not have an expertise or training in an area that this committee or board is involved in. There's no reason to not replace them, because you're going to get a more knowledgeable board member who is going to add much more to the discussion. So that's my concern. There are engineers on the board. There are people who have no background in anything really relevant to what's going on. So that would be my concern, keeping people on that are not as qualified as people that are interested in getting on.
Okay. Councilmember Moss, you recognized?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple clarifications. One, the board does not have $165,000, and they're not directing anything to move forward with that kind of money. That's under us. And I did argue a bit with our previous manager because I did not like the idea that she put it under a board, because in reality, it's not in any way under the board, it's under council. The advisory board, when we set out, and by the way, the consultant already has a very specific thing that they're doing. And the advisory board is supposed to work alongside the consultant. And one of the biggest things that the advisory board does is make sure that we get input from the public when we start to go out and develop the vision. And the vision's not always so technical. There's a lot of things that we're looking at. I know that this portion of the consultant that we hired is an urban planning portion of it, but there's other portions that we're looking at. We're looking at our relationships to other governments, our internal governments. We're looking at many different things that we're putting in. And if you read the 2020, you can see that there's a lot of different areas. It's not just the urban planning physical part. So, you know, I think there was a tremendous amount of, and I was very happy about who applied. I spoke to many of them. Some of them are friends of mine that have not been involved in the government at all, architects that I know, and they would contribute very well too. But, you know, I think that we have a group that has invested a tremendous amount of time. And I know it was difficult to go from 11 to 7. And, you know, whatever the mayor decides, I'm going to be behind it. I understand the difficulty he's in. You know, my understanding a few months ago that this was an idea of reappointing so we can continue what we've already started. But if there's a need to switch out one or two people, you know, if you feel that, that's fine. But I'm ready to move forward with the suggestions that have already been put out there.
Clarify, which I unfortunately, it goes contrary to the spirit of what we've been working over the last 2 days, and particularly today. It's shocking how careless we still are with words, because the idea that even Ed London would suggest that when I was talking about money, it was money to pay the members of the board goes to show you that we have a communications problem among us. All I'm trying to do, Brett, is to make sure there are other opinions. There are substantial opinions. They are, as we discussed, and all of us are aware, feelings that may not be founded in truth, that I want to have spent a lot of time since November trying to get people together, and, you know, hey, all of a sudden, you know, the person that you thought was your enemy is not that bad. And this creates that perception. That's all. I respect you, and this is your baby. I think it's a mistake, but I'll work to make it work if that's the decision. I mean, and then I always had that feeling, and then just this wonderful outplay of people who apply. It probably shouldn't have done it. I actually was ready to move last time, and now it's created a very nice problem, by the way, a very nice problem, because we have some outstanding people. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mayor, can I add something really quick?
Do it again. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that participation, say it all, in this process is really not the board's job. The board is not supposed to be sitting there telling the consultant what they envision. The board is really to go out and get people involved, and everybody, even on this list, should be coming to these meetings and participating and helping out. And really, that was the charge. We're not looking at this board to sit there with the consultant and say, put this, don't put that, put this, don't do that, and in a closed meeting and nobody can say whatever. No, it's about opening this up to as many people, and we're going to use the consultant to help us filter that into a physical urban plan. So I think we're not losing that opportunity. We're going to have that opportunity, that we're going to have a lot of input from people. I hope that helps, kind of help people, relax that they're going to be able to participate in this. And I hope that all these people are there when we start having these meetings. But again, I think it's in the power of the mayor to make his appointments, and I think we have to just make that decision whether we want to approve them or not.
Okay, call the question, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. You guys can get to work, and I do. Again, I want to encourage everybody to get involved and participate in this. And again, to Councilmember Moss's point, this is about getting as many people to these meetings and taking part as possible.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is extending the review time of materials for council members for zoning quasi-judicial items. Councilmember Moss.
Yeah, I think this is something that was a concern that came up with Councilmember Laredo in the last meeting, and I mentioned that we should put it on the agenda. And I've felt this before when we get these, especially when we get larger issues that come up, that we do need more time. Sometimes 4 or 5 days is just not enough to do all of our background and understand the issue that's at hand. And I also don't think it's fair for the people who have submitted to, be told that, well, we're not ready. You're going to have to get pushed another month, because I've been on that side as an architect as well. And this is difficult. It takes time to put together. There's a lot of energy in it. So my recommendation would be to allow an extra week, which would be maybe 10 days before the meeting, which would be the Thursday earlier usually than the meeting, to give us that extra week that we can really sit down with our attorneys, we can sit down with staff and really try to understand the issue before the rest of the information comes out for the regular council meeting. So that would be my suggestion, and I think that could help out a lot for all of us, and just want to open that discussion for everybody.
Councilmember McCormick, and then I think Councilmember Laredo is nodding his head. So
great.
I think he wants
It's great. Yes. Yeah.
Councilmember McCormick.
I completely agree. I think that these are really complex issues often, or even if they're not complex, they're certainly not routine for us anymore. We don't serve in that quasi-judicial role very often. So more time to be prepared is certainly helpful. I have a question probably for Chad about other municipalities and how things work. When these things come before us and we're acting sort of in the judgment role in this quasi-judicial proceeding, the person applying always comes with a dedicated legal representation who is clearly advocating for them. And I find that on the other side, we've had sometimes village staff who come and just sort of lay out the facts, but it feels strange to me to be in the role of trying to render a judgment, but also feeling somewhat like an advocate for the village. And I'm wondering if anyone ever puts real advocacy, legal representation on the side of the village in these proceedings. I really felt the Island Drive one.
So how some communities do it is not, and we've actually done this in the Key before, not a legal advocate as speaking and presenting like you saw the attorney do tonight, but sometimes you do have a lawyer representing the staff and a lawyer representing the council. The issue with having a lawyer present is you're just advocating and it's not evidence into the record. So the village staff or whichever expert we're going to have, a traffic expert or whoever our expert is for a particular quasi-judicial item, is going to have to testify regardless. So it doesn't really help to have, you could have a lawyer introduce the item, but for purposes of preserving the record for appeal and to putting evidence into the record, a lawyer speaking at a zoning meeting really is advocating and that's it. So if we have a real controversial item, we could have a lawyer representing staff and a lawyer representing the council, which we did. We did do that in the past, like I said, but it won't be in that advocate role like you're thinking.
Okay. Maybe have even more time.
Councilmember Laredo. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember McCormick, you finished? Councilmember Laredo.
No, I agree 100% with the reflections of Moss. As you recall, last time I asked for the courtesy of deferral simply because you remember all the reading we had. And I'm not looking for legal answers from you, Chad. I am looking for you and the staff to understand that everybody here has a life. We do this for free, and there's just so much that we can digest. And we get stuff on Thursday, which is better than before, this thick, to make a decision that has profound effect. I'm not talking about procedures, I'm not talking about legality, I'm not talking about the record. I'm not lost in the forest. I think, and now I sense what I was sensing last week from McCormick, that I felt the same way on the Island Drive. I felt pressure that I was going to look like a dummy for not making a decision. I hadn't had time to go into all the angles. I didn't have time to talk to neighbors. And we have to stop that because one day we're going to make a big mistake. And in the end, by the way, it's simply not fair. So the idea of a 10-day,
that's easy.
It should be embedded in our rule. I don't know whether it's a motion, it's so that we can.
No, I think we direct
and direct the staff, because if you recall last time, the attorney for the petitioner was almost a little mad that we were asking for a deferral.
Right.
That means, well, she's the paid lawyer. I'm not. And maybe she was misled. I don't know. But clearly, it's pandemic, and it could become a problem as we go, particularly as we start going into infrastructure projects and things that we have a learning curve. So I think it's great what Moss has proposed.
Great.
And I think we should make it part of our procedure.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yeah, I'm recalling earlier times we had a separate zoning
meetings.
We suspended those because they didn't come up frequently enough. Which caused me to reflect on a piece of a request, actually, a piece of advice and a request. I think it would be helpful for Chad or someone in Chad's office to prepare for us a little primer on what the quasi-judicial role and responsibility is, as distinct from our regular functionality. Doesn't come up a lot, but it came up tonight. And if we weren't grounded in the due process requirements, we shouldn't be at sea and improvising. We should.
Correct. It's a great idea.
I'm happy to provide the primer. I've done that a number of times. Just tell me, when, and we can do it collectively as a group. And
Thursday night.
So.
Oh, sorry, I'm just kidding. I just figured no time for you to prepare, to see how it feels on this side of the fence. No. All right. Whenever, let's figure out a time. Let's do it. I think it's good. It's a refresher.
It's easy for, I think, the firm to do it because the regular primer for newly electeds includes that material.
That's right. Yeah, it's probably a little shorter. Okay. Great idea. Brett?
And I just want to clarify, I did the counting is 12 days.
Yeah, it's okay. 12 days. But you meant a week and a half. So yeah, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's fine. If we've got a zoning issue coming before us where we're going to act in a quasi-judicial role, we'll just set that 12 days out. 12 days will be the date on which we have to receive everything.
Or the Thursday. Yeah.
Correct. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Discussion on village manager search results and next steps. Councilmember Moss.
Yeah, I just brought this up because I think we left last meeting a little bit unclear on the dates. I spoke to some of the candidates. I think they're a little bit unclear if we're having a meet and greet and when our final votes and all that kind of stuff. And I think that we should clarify that right now and just say this is what we're going to do. And
can I renew my proposal? What I was thinking about doing the meet and greet this Thursday, but I don't think that gives residents. I think a lot of people are out of town this Thursday. So if this council would be amenable, I would think do a meet and greet next Tuesday and have our final decision next Thursday if people are around. That gives us time to have everybody, you know, I think people still have some meetings left with understanding is there's some candidates who haven't met with all the council members. And then we could have a meet and greet for the residents. And then 2 days later, we get together in this chambers and we, you know, we make the decision. And that's our one item that Thursday night.
For a meet and greet, which I'd like to do, are you thinking, you know, the Turtle Fountain?
Well, kind of a Turtle Fountain thing. I don't know if we can, I suppose, you know, that's the historic place, right? I'm sorry, I muted myself. I think that's right, but I want to hear from you guys. I mean, there is social distancing. We're trying to do social distancing. At the same time, you know, I think it's the weather's nice. Maybe we could do it out front by the Monaco Fountain. But you guys, you tell me what your thoughts are, because I think this is something.
This is for the public, right?
This is for the public to come if they so desire to come meet these people. We've done it. It's a tradition. We've done it before with every time I've been involved with a manager search. And I just think it's a nice thing to do to give people the opportunity to meet with these people on an informal basis.
I think,
I'm sorry, Councilmember McCormick is waving her hand.
No, I just wanted to turn. Frank isn't done. He can keep going.
Councilmember Kaplan and then Councilmember McCormick.
When I think about the spatial setting at the Turtle Fountain, it's not going to work for social distancing. Right. I've been meeting at the Beach Club, and it's been, you know, you're outdoors. It's a big area.
Right, but the Beach Club is not ours. You mean the Beach Park or the Beach Club?
Beach Club.
You know, we could do Beach Park.
We could do the Beach Park.
Or we could do the Beach Park. But being out of doors and being able to be spread out is going to be required.
I think we'd have to do it at the Beach Park because that's our space. What are you guys thinking? I mean, what's the thought?
That's fine with me.
Doesn't matter.
A lot of people are not going to show up because of the fear.
And I get it, and a lot of people aren't going to. But why not at least give them the opportunity if they so choose? Because there will be people who do show up.
Well, it's not like you mentioned before.
Or the Monaco Fountain.
Straight off.
Right.
Some
I'm going to jump in just because I'm not going to clearly.
I'm sorry. I totally jumped over you.
I would.
And then Councilmember
Frank already said everything, and so did everybody else. But I would also just echo that I like the idea of the Monaco Fountain because the Turtle Fountain's way too tight. If you think about the last meet and greet we did, it was definitely not COVID safe. I love the idea of doing it at the Beach Park because there's plenty of space. There's also way more of a breeze for COVID safety. And people can see the sand project while they're there. But the concern that I have with the beach park is that there really isn't good accessible parking. Mm-hmm. So I would err on the side of the Monaco Fountain.
Okay. Councilmember Cigarella? No, you're muted. Hold on. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm all for meet and greets, and that's great. However, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this because I just want to say my piece. 6 months ago, we started down this process of picking a manager. 6 months ago, I suggested that we hire a search firm and do a methodical, reasoned out process. This council, in its infinite wisdom, decided, whether it was arrogance or stubbornness, that nobody was going to tell us how it is that we're going to pick a manager. I said it was going to be a disaster, and I'm here to say I told you so. We're here 6 months later, and basically what we have to show for it are 4 candidates that, as far as I can tell, no one is really excited about. And I will say that. That's my opinion. That's not a correct statement. Okay, I will say that. As far as I can tell, no one's really excited about. And as far as Connie Hoffman can say, none of them is really as qualified as the one candidate that dropped out.
Mike.
Now, I'm greatly disappointed in how we've done this. It has been a complete fiasco, if you ask me. And if any resident asks me, I will say that. My vote is we don't have to start completely over again, but out of the 52 candidates that applied, I will say a majority had no business even applying, but yet the 7 of us had to go through these CVs and analyze each single one and waste a lot of time. But if I recall, there was a good solid 15 candidates there that had decades of experience as managers or assistant managers and managing large projects. The only one of those 15 that made the final cut was Tom Bradford, and he decided he no longer wanted to be a candidate. I think we need to go back, give those CVs to Connie Hoffman, have her go through, and then we'll get a new pool of candidates to pick very highly qualified people from. Because with all due respect to the current candidates, I agree with Connie Hoffman. They are not the type, they are not as qualified as what I want to be looking at when we're looking for a manager. That's my part.
Councilmember Moss and then McCormick. I see you waving.
You can let.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Moss, then Councilmember London, then Councilmember McCormick.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up one thing really quickly. Connie Hoffman is not going to be around for like 2 months, 2.5 months. So this is going to be a huge delay. And I really liked her. I really liked her though, but I just want you to know that's a big delay. I also asked Connie to look over all the 54 candidates. She looked at them quickly. She said she didn't see many there that would fit what we're looking for, and she would actually suggest to completely go back out. So I'm just telling you what I know from my talks with her.
I'm willing to do that too.
Councilmember London and then Vice Mayor London and then Councilmember McCormick.
Ignacio, I disagree with you. This has not been a fiasco. It's been dragged out much longer than it should have been. People spent more time. They wanted to be more thorough than possibly other people thought it would take. But it's not been a fiasco. The fact that we had 52 candidates is great. The fact that the 7 of us, I guess we got down to 8 candidates, that all of us said, hey, these 8 candidates, we selected 5 or 9. So, and we're all different. We didn't communicate with each other. And we selected these people, which shows that possibly we all had something in mind. Maybe you didn't, and you say you're not impressed by any of these people, and that's fine. And now you're referring to Connie Hoffman. And I know Brett is very big on Connie Hoffman. And obviously I'm not. I think she comes with a bias that she was a village manager or a city manager. She thinks experience is the number one thing. If you had to be a village manager, then that's the important thing. And that's what we should look for. And if we all thought that way, we'd have limited to people who were village managers, city managers, county managers, state managers, what have you. But besides in the world, there are other managers besides city, village, county, municipal managers. Some of them are business managers, and there's military managers. There's managers who manage fire departments. One of our candidates, all he's ever done is manage fire departments, big fire departments, lots of people, lots of budgets, but he's not been a city or village manager. She says he's unqualified. Maybe he is. I don't think he is, but maybe she thinks he is. We have other ones, colonel in the Army. He managed unbelievable number of things over the years, all kinds of projects. He did all kinds of infrastructure, things that we're looking for. She doesn't say he's unqualified, but she ranks him tied for second. Why? Because the guy she ranks number 1 with the experience, there's one other thing that maybe, I guess you've talked to all of them. I've had every one of them in my house, so I spent hours with them. So the one thing that she does not look at is leadership and energy. And when you talk to the 5, he, in my opinion, which is only one person, he came in last. He had the most experience, very nice guy, everything else, but he had no oomph. He had no dynamism to him. He wasn't somebody that was going to inspire people to move forward. But we chose him because she said, hey, he's a longtime manager and I'm a manager. And then she made another statement. And that statement is when I totally lost all credibility in anything she had to say. And she said something to the effect that it takes 1.5 to 2 years to learn the job. That's the learning curve. And I thought to myself, God, if we hire somebody who's going to take 1.5 to 2 years to learn the job, we really made a mistake, because that person is not very bright. Because I've been involved in at least 7 different industries, and I've hired CEOs for every industry except one. And let me tell you, I brought people in from different industries and much more complicated than village management. Village management is a very simple business compared to the real world of business, because here you don't worry about being competitive. You don't worry about selling your product. You have captive customers. You tax them. Main thing you try and do is provide services with the budget you have. And that's completely different than private business. It's completely different from the military, where you have a chain of command. And you know what? You perform or you're out, or you'll never get anywhere in the military. And it's completely different. So overall, this is the easiest thing of those 3 things. The only problem you have in dealing with becoming a village manager is dealing with us and turnover among us. Because, again, not all villages have people like us who are so conscientious and we do such a great job. So therefore, don't smile, Michael, it's a joke. So anyway, what I'm saying to you is that I don't put any stake in Connie Hoffman. I'm sorry, Brett, I know you do. But when she says these things, and when she has that bias that it had to be the experience and it's going to make the difference, and he doesn't have what I consider leadership, and I've, like I said, I've probably hired more CEOs than most everybody else here, possibly the rest of the council put together, and done some searches. So therefore, I don't think it's fiasco. I think we're doing a great job. I just think we should get it done. Finish it up. I think we have 4 great candidates, even though she said 2 shouldn't be considered. That's her opinion. I think we should consider all 4 of them. That's all.
May I respond?
Go, Councilmember McCormick, and then we'll go back around. Councilmember McCormick?
I think this may be one for the record books, because I really agree with Ed.
Oh, you're making a mistake.
I think I might be. I might have to rethink it. But I don't think it's been a disaster. I mean, I think Tuesday was a disaster, but I don't think the process has been a disaster. I think when we decided to be the ones in charge of this process, there was a real reason why. And it's that Key Biscayne is a very particular place with very particular needs. And we felt that we knew what they were. We did enlist the help of experts because we wanted certain types of data collected. I was so disappointed that Connie Hoffman ranked the candidates that she interviewed, because to me, it was like the parable of the blind man and the elephant. She had one part of the picture. We asked for 3 different consultants to do 3 different types of research into the candidates. She rendered judgment based on her list of criteria and priorities and her one window into these people. So I would certainly not ask for more searching from her. And I also am disappointed that the ranking was put out there, because it certainly wasn't ranked by the priorities I set out when I wanted to find a village manager. And to your point of all of the time that put into it, I understand that. I mean, I met with, in addition to, like all of you, reading all of the resumes, I interviewed the first round 18 people. I spent extensive time before preparing for the interviews. I spent sometimes an hour and a half, easy an hour on most of those calls, and then time contemplating the call after to come up with my final 5. It shocked me that Connie picked who she picked for number 1, because he, to me, sounded like he was so retired and not really interested in the job. I felt that way when he came to the undergrounding. He said it on my call. He was a wonderfully qualified person. But in the end, he told us what I already knew. And that's why he wasn't on my list of 5. But Connie Hoffman put him as number 1. And I don't understand how she missed that, other than really just wanting to prioritize municipal management experience. So unlike you, Ignacio, and like Ed, I do have candidates, plural, that I'm excited about.
I missed it.
4 of the final 5 were on my list, I think, or close to it. And I would like to wrap this up. I am ready. I would like to do the meet and greet next week, and I'd like to vote next week.
Okay. Councilmember Laredo, and then Councilmember Segurola.
I'm so delighted for what you say, Ms. McCormick, and seconding Mr. London's. I don't have as much experience as he claims to have, but I've had both in the private, like he has, and in the public sector. We are blessed to have 4 people who are extraordinary, each with different angles. It's an amazing unanimity on our first round of voting. It almost comes out without all these consultants, but I was against again. Almost the last 4 were the 4 people that we ranked our own little selves with our own little knowledge and sensitivity to Key Biscayne. This is giving us a bad image. You said I tried to do that last week. I actually tried last week. I will perhaps try again once again. That we, and I'm prepared, and it would be great if we can move today to 2. At the last meeting on March 30th, and I reread and saw the tape again, 4 of us, Kaplan, Segurola, London, and Lauredo, said that we were ready to go to 2. I think it would be very helpful if tonight we can move to 2 and then follow the suggestion of the meet and greet and an election immediately thereafter. It's not anywhere near my reality of my previous experience, a delay, but that's water under the bridge, and it's completely unfair to say that there isn't anybody, that each one of us are excited. They are extraordinary people, and by the way, as I tried to say to some of you, some of them are amazing to me even more because besides these little consultants that charge, I have my ears to the ground and I've got recommendations for some of these people from professionals and politicians they work for, public servants, who can't even talk to each other. And they're all agreed that they were great, which is immediately say, whoa, this is a special people that they can navigate all that animosity that usually is for the elected officials, and opposite side, they will say this guy or that one or the other is the best. I'm excited about the 4, and I don't know if it's okay to try to move to 2 today. I think that may help. And that's I took my notes from last week. Some of you said that at the end. Let's move to 2 and really, really focus. There may be 2 who will not make it, but that would be my suggestion, Mr. Mayor, when it's appropriate to.
Councilmember Segurola and then Councilmember Kaplan.
Just want to reply, Councilmember London.
Go ahead.
Let's agree to disagree, because I disagree with pretty much every single word you said.
Be consistent.
I absolutely agree with Connie Hoffman's assessment and method, because the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. And when there is no past behavior present as a manager or assistant manager or something of the like, there is no way to judge if they're going to be successful or not. When you have a proven track record, I'm not looking for a rookie. I'm not looking for someone who wants on-the-job training. I'm not looking for someone who wants their first job in management. I'm not looking for someone in their first rodeo. I want a proven track record that can move us forward. And that's what it all comes down to. Experience does count for a whole lot. Especially the other point I disagree with you on is the public sector is completely different from the private sector, because you have all sorts of compliance and oversight issues that are just not present in the private sector. In the private sector, you do whatever's best for the business. And as long as you're not outright breaking the law, you have a lot of leeway. In the public sector, there are a million guidelines, state, federal, local, that you have to make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's every single step of the way. And the candidates that we're looking at do not have that experience. So yes, they will need on-the-job training. They will take a year to a year and a half or more to learn the ropes. And that's not time I want to waste. I want to get good candidates that know what they're doing, that can jump right in and steer the ship, not ones that have to feel their way around. But that's me. And once again, the council in their infinite wisdom does whatever they'd like. Let's go forward.
Councilmember Kaplan, and then Councilmember Moss, and then Vice Mayor London one more time.
I guess a couple things. I don't see this as you do, Ignacio. I don't think that it was either arrogance or ignorance or whatever the other stubbornness. I think that what was going on, at least in my mind, and I think this is reflective of where we all pretty much were at, was a process that included consultants, but when and for what was a determination in our intelligent discretion, when and for what. And I remember specifically, we got our notice out the day before Thanksgiving, one day after the meeting, the following Wednesday. I think that was a timely delivery, and it was an excellent product. It resulted in 52 resumes. I think you've seen it as I did. There were several in the stack that I thought were not qualified candidates. There was a category in my initial culling that was basically, they just don't belong in this competition. A lot of people did, and at least two of us tried to go outside local and find some intriguing people. But as several of you have already observed tonight, the majority of the group, actually 5 of the group, really did coalesce around the same people. Luis said it, and it's true.
It is amazing.
It is true. And you'd have to presuppose that there was no one in this mix of 4 that would be an excellent choice for us. And I think that where I am right now is that potentially any one of the 4 would be an excellent choice for us. I've not ruled out anybody. And Luis, I did say, I offered, if it would help the group to move forward, that I would be prepared last time to try to call out to. I'd rather not do that at this stage.
Okay.
We're going to have a social occasion, I think, soon, and then we're going to make a decision. And I'd rather just keep these guys in the mix, in part because after last week, I started over again. I went back and reread everything I'd ever read, thought about all of my notes, and I'm still in that process now, just looking at it with fresh eyes. One thing that I really appreciated the conversation that Ed and Connie, and then, I tried to jump in and contribute to that conversation last time. Ignacio, she certainly did say that experience counts. You're absolutely right. But this is a question of the perfection, sort of being the enemy of the good enough. If there was that, and she said this, if there was that prototypical candidate that was a city manager and had Michelangelo's skill sets and was Leonardo da Vinci in other respects, that would be just great. What we have, I think, are people with various strengths and some limitations, very different compensatory qualities that make it a hard decision, but they're all good guys. And I think they would all be a success in the village of Key Biscayne, any of them. So I need to get to the end and make a decision, but I'm ready to do that next week.
Councilmember Moss, and then Vice Mayor London, and then, let's see where we are.
Well, a response to Councilmember London, the complexity, I think dealing with 7 of us is the complexity of that position. And that's what I've been trying my hardest to figure out which one can put up with us. I'm going to go back to Connie, and, I just want to say that I think she did a good job. I think she did a very good job. And I don't know if it's fair to say that how she ended up was disappointing, because originally we probably should have hired her from an earlier stage where she had more input at an earlier stage and she didn't. So we gave her 5 candidates that she basically had to deal with. And those may have not been the 5 that she may have brought forward, right? So I don't think I wouldn't say it's fair that, look, I can see that people can agree and disagree, but we told her to give us her best analysis, and she did. And if you read through the documents, they're very well done. And she doesn't have the backgrounds, in front of her. So she says that right at the beginning, I don't have this. And if I had that, maybe her rankings would be completely different. Or if she sat with us and had our interviews each, maybe she would be looking for something else that each of us were looking for. But I just want to put that on the record. with the respect to the process and what Councilmember Segurola is putting out there, I've come to realize, and I was in that same camp, I'm looking for that proven experience, but I've come to realize that, we could go and debate forever. And this could be an endless game of, well, this person has a little bit more of that, or this person has a little bit more of this. And even if somebody does have a lot of experience, sometimes it's not the best fit. And I do think that we do have 4 qualified candidates. It's just about the level that maybe you're setting the standard at. And even a high qualification doesn't always tell you if their personality is going to fit with the organization. I'm including staff or community or us. So there's a lot of different things that we do need to look at. And, I think that, for me, I'm ready to move on and take this vote. I've analyzed this too much that my head actually hurts. And I don't think I can take more of this at all. I mean, I don't think I can. I'm ready to go. I think Councilmember Laredo said it in our meeting yesterday. We may just have to take that leap of faith and see how these guys do and get one of them in there and go. And I think that I have a feeling that any of them can be successful. I really do. I think one thing that we do need to make a decision tonight, though, we need to make a decision on how we're going to make the votes. Because I think it's important to have a first and a second place, because there will be negotiations that will happen with the first person. And if for any reason, and I've heard that I think 20% of the time, it's not that common, but it is somewhat common, that negotiations don't work. And we should already have our second pick. We shouldn't have to come back and do another vote. So I really think it's important that we do come down to 1 and 2. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I do think that we need to come down to number 1 and number 2, and then we go to number 1. And that way we inherently have our top 2 picks, and we start negotiations.
Well, and here's what I would propose. I agree with a lot of what's going on. I respectfully disagree with Councilmember Segurola. I have been in the hiring game. I don't have as much experience as the gentleman to my left and my right. I'm not as old as the one to my right, certainly. But I've dealt with a lot of hiring, and I know how hard it is. And to the point you just made, it's always a leap of faith, right? You can think, I've hired guys, I've hired people who I thought were the perfect fit for my organization. I thought they were going to be the one who was going to take us to the next level. And 3 months later, I'm looking at them going, what did I do? And then I've hired people who I thought, okay, this would be a stopgap measure. This person's going to, and they've been the one who stood out. And, so part of it is a leap of faith. Part of it is doing your homework, doing your due diligence, but part of it is a leap of faith. And some people, you put them in a role, and again, I think all 4 of these people have the qualification. I think they all have something in them that you said something. It wasn't chutzpah, but it was sort of that drive. And I think they all do, to a certain degree, have that thing that makes a good leader. And that's what we're looking for. So I would recommend, I agree with you, Councilmember Moss. I think we come back after we've had the Tuesday night meeting. We all submit our 1 and 2. We can either do that here at the dais.
What Tuesday night meeting?
I'm sorry, Tuesday night. I was thinking we were doing the meet and greet on Tuesday. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I was thinking we'd do the meet and greet Tuesday. Thursday we would have the vote. If everybody,
fine. Well, that'll be the 13th and 15th.
Correct. Yeah. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Just get your taxes in.
Let me.
No, don't we get deferred till May 15th this year?
Yeah, May 15th.
Don't panic, Lee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't. What are you doing to me, Brett? So if everybody's amenable,
I have a
okay
on the scheduling. I like to have a problem. Yeah.
How about the virtual?
Let's do Wednesday.
Are you going to be away?
Look, first of all, let me just say this first, if you don't mind. That's the last thing.
Go right ahead.
I'm just so connected to McCormick today. It's amazing. Because that's exactly how I felt. And this water under the bridge with the candidate who dropped out. Exactly the same feeling I had in terms of, and in fact, if you read his letter, it's a very honest letter. He was looking to, hey, I'm 67, and he thought he was going to, wonderful guy, all the quality. He was going to just do a post-retirement. This is a wonderful place. I got that day one. Allison, just like you. So I was shocked at that thing. I just want to get that on the record.
Blame Brett.
Yeah.
He pursued him.
These last few weeks have been very difficult for me. I have taken enormously too much time in trying to do things, which I'm not asking for bragging, time, because I saw so many divisions, et cetera, et cetera. You heard my whole thing. I have ignored something extraordinarily more important in my life, which had a date, and I've paid the consequences. And I was even going to surprise her later tonight if you were going to do the 8th. But I am getting married tomorrow.
Oh. Does Tina know?
Shotgun wedding.
I'm wearing.
That's what Michelle was talking about.
Well, she may not after this in the morning, and we were supposed to leave. I have the business to do in Ocala, and then take a week or two off. So putting me.
What do you? Okay. What do you want to do?
I'm sorry I brought that up, but
no, that's a legitimate excuse.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Don't make a man out of you.
I don't have a lot of goodwill in the house because I have diverted the priorities to the wrong place. So, as far as scheduling, I guess you guys don't want to do 2 today. You want to do it afterward. You want to keep it at 4.
I'd like to keep the 4.
All right, so drop that, and then if it were the 8th, I could probably push her to stay over the 8th. That is Thursday, but at the meet and greet, I met them all. I don't need to.
Yeah, you can do virtual the further.
Well, I mean, I don't need to meet and greet them. No. I mean, I already met all of them.
You've met them all.
Yeah.
So where do you put me then in this dilemma that I have?
What's that?
The dilemma you created for me.
You had no disclosure.
On the 15th?
The 15th, we'll do the vote.
Do it virtual, right?
Yeah, we can do that virtually.
All
Correct.
Right.
And it'll be quick. It'll be a quick meeting.
Okay.
All right. We'll do it as quickly as possible.
And I won't be there on the 13th.
That's okay. I mean, no, I understand that, and you've met them. It's more for the public to meet these people. It's not, yeah. So I think that's going to be the important thing. And I encourage everybody who can be there to be there, but you're not required to be there as council members. I think it's
Mike.
Yeah.
No, I just think that
let's rank it and everybody submit. Should we submit to?
That's what I was going to say. How to
clerk
submit
on Thursday by 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just texting the bride to be. What was that decision?
Oh, God. The agenda is April 13th at 6 o'clock at the Monaco Fountains. We're having our meet and greet.
At what time you said?
6 o'clock. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah.
Is that okay? Is it too early, too late? Tell me.
It should be fine.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, it'll be public. Well, that's why we're giving it a week. That's why I thought 48 hours isn't enough. And then the 15th, 6 o'clock, we'll be meeting either virtually or the 4 of us can be here. Everybody needs to have their number 1 and their number 2 in by next Thursday, April 15th at 5 p.m.
Submitted to the clerk.
Submitted to the clerk. Correct. By email.
Gotcha.
Just 1 and 2. We're not
just 1 and 2. You don't have to rank 3 and 4.
By what date do you want?
April 15th.
No, but when do you submit it?
By April 15th at 5 o'clock, because we're having the meeting at 6.
Okay.
Just so everybody's votes in. And we'll do it virtually at 6. I mean, there'll be 4 of us have to be here. So the 3 of us and one other, either Councilmember Segurola or one of the 2 people who are enjoying their homes.
So the mayor, I have a question. If we do not have 4 votes for any one candidate, how do we vote in the meeting then? Are we going to go ahead
we'll be able to vote. Yeah, we'll be able to vote.
We're going to vote like voice vote. We're not going to do because you have to be careful because somebody can say it before the other person and you don't want to affect the next person's vote if you're going down.
All the vote. That's why it has to be in. Your number 1 and your number 2 have to be in by 5 p.m. to Jocelyn.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you may end up with only 3 votes for the top vote getter, and we may have to break a tie for the number 2.
Okay, we take the top 2 vote getters and we bring them back. If there's a plurality, then the
question is just how do you vote without anybody seeing? Like, do we send more emails out to Jocelyn every time?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
We've done it before. We'll figure it out.
Basically, Mike, we submit 2, and if nobody gets 4, we take the top 2. We do those 2.
Yeah,
correct. Them, right?
Correct.
The 2 top. Yeah. If there's 3, it'll still work. Okay.
Hold on, Councilmember McCormick, you have a question.
Sorry. So if no one gets 4 and we revote, we're going to do that in the meeting, right?
Correct.
And
take the top 2.
It doesn't do it as a voice vote because it's people hearing what other people say.
That's right. No, it'll have to be resubmitted. We'll have to have something set up.
By email.
We can email, or you could write it down, and we can all put it up at the same time.
But not everybody's going to be here. But everybody will.
Gallery view. I'm looking at everybody right now.
What?
You just don't want anybody changing because of somebody else's vote. That's all.
No, I understand, but everybody should submit to the clerk again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just an email to the clerk.
Email to the clerk or to the what? Chad, you have a quick
I was going to
suggestion?
say, I've seen this done during a pandemic. I think you can do the email to the clerk. You just take like a short test.
Yeah, it'll be a break. Everybody will get a chance, and then the clerk would have to figure out.
And they tally it up.
Yeah, correct. All right, are we good on that?
We're good.
Yep.
All right,
So,
thank you all.
So the mayor, you're calling a special call meeting for the 15th at
15th, correct, at 6 p.m. I'm
right.
calling for a cocktail party on the 13th.
And who's going to reach out to the candidates to let them know about the
They're all watching, but that's
we're not going to give a nice invitation. And
I mean, what did we do last time?
We made it, known to the public first.
Right.
The candidates were informed.
Yeah.
I don't remember who catered it. We'll have to arrange for food and beverage.
Okay. All right. Well, we had
candidates. I'm assuming that they will all do everything they can to make themselves available. But since this isn't the date we had originally proposed, perhaps before we publish it, we make this decision pending all of their availability.
I had told all four of them in my conversations yesterday and today that we would be considering the Tuesday because it was such a short window to do it on the 8th. And I didn't.
That's fine. Just wanted to make sure that we weren't.
Nobody had an objection.
Hard enough 24/7 job when they get it, but we don't have to do this before.
Fair enough. All right. Are we good on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Next. Well, I have mine quick.
Volume.
You were muted. But
you go ahead, mate.
The first one is the discussion on Saturday night's vandalism. I got a lot of reports from, I think you did too. We got reports from people. Apparently they were doing the old smash 'em up dirt with stolen golf carts. They were stealing golf carts around the island, going on the village green and trashing them. And I saw some of the photos. Laudy Abada and the woman, her name, I think Marcella was her name. They live right there. They saw it happening. They saw what was going on. Again, I would just, I know our cops are doing what they can, but let's get these people. Enough's enough. We keep seeing this, and this is not.
And the dog stuff. What sick person did the dog poison?
I don't understand, and maybe Todd can speak to that if the chief will allow him. But I think that might have been the restaurants just sweeping the stuff out from the Galleria in. But I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it was necessarily because I was extremely upset about that. But but let's just get them. I mean, I don't think there's anything else to discuss. Let's find these people and let's hold them, whatever we can do. So anyway, I'm sorry. Let's go to your item.
No, very fast. Just to let you know, and a lot of staff knows about this. Money is coming our way, fairly unrestricted. We still have to. Staff has to read by the 3 million pages of the bill.
One quick thing.
So it's $5 million. So what I suggest is go to our financial guy. And that may require a little special meeting of us, call it a planning meeting or something, not more than an hour, to find out how this money is coming and the restrictions. It is my first reading from somebody who told me that they have language for water and sewers, water to be defined, and basically infrastructure. So this is a time of bonanza. And we better not rely on our consultants in Washington because they have a lot of clients and we got to be proactive.
Yes.
Because money is flying out the door and we should be just grabbing it and literally tailoring the projects. And by that, I don't mean maliciously tailoring, but changing the words because at the end, it's going to be water and sewer or something like that, except they call it water and sweet. So let's call it water and sweet so that we can get the money. And that's the reality of Washington. That requires really a little bit of our time.
Okay.
I hope, as soon as you can schedule it with the staff.
Let's get it done.
Good.
Councilmember, Vice Mayor?
I was this past week at Hampton Park, and what I want to suggest to everybody is that before the next meeting, please take a look at Hampton Park. It is a disgrace. It is a disaster. It is an eyesore. It is ugly. It is horrible. I don't know what else to say. Something we have to do about it. We might have to just bite the bullet, rip up what's out there, redo it, but it is absolutely terrible. We talk about the entry block. Let me tell you, this is the ugliest thing on Key Biscayne. We spent $2 million buying it. We spent a fortune fixing it up, and it really looks like trash. We have to do something, but once we have to do something, we then have to maintain it. So please look at it before the next meeting.
I will.
Because it is a disaster.
I thought you were talking earlier about Harvard. You meant Hampton.
No, Hampton.
Last time I went to see Harvard and I was speaking bad about you. As usual.
Hampton, please, please look at that before next meeting.
Yeah, and I said, what's wrong with Harvard?
No, it's Hampton. No, Harbor's.
Okay.
Ed, was it maintenance issues or vandalism?
It's probably wrong stuff being planted that doesn't flourish without tremendous amount of maintenance, which obviously we can't give it or whatever, but it is absolute a disaster. Just go over sometime. Just take a walk over, drive over, and take a look. And you will be shocked, absolutely shocked.
I think it's maintenance, but there was also an item of vandalism.
Whatever it is, well, I'm just saying, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, take a look at it. We got to bite the bullet and do something. That's all.
Well, congratulations to Councilmember Laredo and Tina.
Yeah.
Pending nuptials.
But poor Tina, how about poor Tina?
You have created more pain and suffering in this relationship over the last 3 weeks.
Poor Tina.
Motion
in
to
the
adjourn.
case,
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Thank you for the counsel.
Take care.
We look forward.